Hey. I hope you guys enjoy that. Portuguese 16-bit. I mean, that's what it's called. Today's stream is called Atheist Attempt to Critique Jay Dyer. It's hilarious. 8-bit polka, pretty much. So we're going to look at one of the most hilariously mind-numbing reviews of a Jay Dyer conversation I've ever seen. And it is from none other than Mike from Answers in Atheism with Captive Desk. I'm not trying to be mean, but these really are the lowest of the lowest grade atheists that I know of. No offense, just a description. It's real bad. Real bad. So we're going to look at that. It's funny. I got a lot of giggles out of it. Got a lot of cackles myself. So we'll take a look at that. I did want to bring up this comment. Where is it here? This person wrote this. We were talking about rights. He commented. This comment is on the Tim Pool review I did. He says, am I understanding your premise correctly? In similar bad faith form as your other videos. Way to start with poisoning the well, Tardo. He says, Paul the Apostle says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. He writes, Jim Bob, the YouTuber, quote, but my big government. That's not even my position. But my big government doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the quote from Paul. Not necessarily. It could, but not necessarily. And then he goes on to misrepresent an argument. This is obviously someone who defends rights. He says, premise one, rights don't exist metaphysically because you cannot point to them. I also never said that. Premise two, laws exist metaphysically, even though you cannot point to them. Well, what I call a law, just so you guys are clear, all these libertarian tards still holding on to the rights conversation. A law itself, the concept, exists nowhere. Fine. But what a law entails does exist. Force and consequence exist. Force and consequence. So law is just force. Law is just force. Rights don't follow the same formula because a right is some sort of allowance. But if you could take away the allowance with force, then there's no such thing as a right anyway. So another stupid person in the comments who stays safe in the comments. You know what I mean? Staying safe in the comments. What's going on, everybody? Welcome. I think you guys, I got a transfer. Hanko Flamo comes in with $5. Thank you, Hank. I'm praying for you, Jim Bob, because you're putting yourself through watching yet another. Well, I don't know how far I'll get. I'll get about 15 minutes in with all of you, okay? Yeah, it's rough, though. Texas Goat Radio, thank you for your membership. Those of you who enjoyed my attacks, impersonations, reviews of Mr. Beg Bear, the beggar of Idaho, Owen Benjamin. Texas Goat Radio does a good covering of everything going on with that guy, including seems to be a potentially influential lawsuit. You can go follow him over there. So let's start with a couple of clips, though. Because that's, let's cleanse our palate before we need to cleanse it again. I think. Oh man, you're in for some really dumb statements. Let me tell you. And we're also going to look. There's a video about the second moon. Apparently, the fancy boys at NASA and elsewhere are telling us we're going to be witnessing a moon come into our orbit. We're going to have another moon for a bit. Isn't that exciting? Let's get to some clips.
What COVID was the very embodiment of the female worldview, which is
That's true.
Unable to balance risks and benefits. It is unable to think soundly about economic matters. It
That's
believed
true.
that you could substitute a government check for private enterprise.
Well, that's really well put. Thanks, Rob. Thank you so much, Rob. Everybody all together now. Thanks, Rob. Thanks a lot, Rob. This is just something cringy. This is a family, apparently a family.
Give me hope, Kamala. Hope, Kamala. Hope for beating Donald Trump.
It's just so white. They obviously purchase for their curtains from the same place Posh purchases his in the back there. But what is this like African take, you know? Did people cringe this hard when Paul Simon stole all the black people's music?
You see, she's safer than him with money.
Safer than him with money.
She'll try to regulate the sale of guns.
She'll try to regulate the sale of guns. That's a good thing, big boy. You're the oldest son. Look at your father looking at you, knowing he succeeded in failing.
She's bringing measures that offer hope,
not fear, access to healthcare and abortion.
Ugh, look at this mom. I want to push her right over. Just drop kick her. Just do a leg sweep. A family of 4, 2 girls, 2 boys, thinking that killing your offspring is a good thing. This little girl here, she'll rebel, don't worry.
Give me hope, Kamala. Hope, Kamala. Hope for beating Donald Trump.
Oh, Google Earth. I'm telling you, I just keep going back to Google Maps and Google Earth. You know? I mean, it's the one good thing about drones. That was me yesterday, having to review the Answers in Atheism video we're going to review. Just throw myself down a hill.
They said, hey, black people are supposed to be
Oi,
slaves.
bagel.
Black people are supposed to be inferior. And
Oi.
they pointed out to the curse of Ham. Now, it happens to be that Jewish law permits the enslavement of any non-Jew. Why?
He's so excited about that.
Well, it appears that Judaism allows for the enslavement of any non-Jew. It doesn't have to be a chocolate one. It doesn't have to be...
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
It doesn't have to be a chocolate one. It could be a red one or a yellow one. Doesn't matter.
Or black? That's another question which got raised. But that has nothing to do with racism. That's just a heter.
Oh, it's not racism. It just has to do with us being supreme and being able to throw you the enslavement, huh? Cream cheese. It has nothing to do with racism. It's something more pure than that, huh? Look, it's not as bad as it sounds. It just has nothing to do with the chocolate sauce or the white vanilla sauce or the yellow sauce. It doesn't matter what the schmear is. It doesn't matter what it is.
We are allowed to enslave non-Jewish populations, perhaps to bring them to mitzvahs, bring them to Torah.
Bring them to bar mitzvahs?
We can enslave people and bring them to bar mitzvahs and make them read the Torah for us. We can make them chop the tips of the penis off. Oh, so much we can do with the enslavement. Oh, we can do anything we want. It's great. Has nothing to do with racism.
the like, but it's not a black thing.
And you guys are still confused why people are giving you the side eye? You kidding me? You kidding me? You kidding me?
For sure.
That's me getting ready. I heard that and I was like, this is my trainer at the gym.
Oh. Oi!
Unbelievable. I'm just wondering, by the way, all my atheist people, you know, like, who is it? Derek from Myth Vision, right? Got a hair in my mouth. Derek from Myth Vision. A lot of you guys do these Christian focused, biblical focused arguments against, let's say, the morality of Christianity. Oh, look what happened in the Bible. Oh, look at, they support this. Look at, oh my gosh. Ooh, oh, clutching my atheist pearls. And then you have people like, who's that one super bagel? What is his name? Someone help me in the chat. He's like the apologist for Judaism. He's like the loudest, most known one. Singer, yeah. Tavia.
Oi!
He goes on these atheist channels and they don't go, hey, can we bring up the, hey, can we bring up some of these other things? They're like, no, let's talk about Christianity, how absurd it is. I mean, Christ the Messiah. Oh my gosh. Why don't you bring up some of these other things, guys? What's going on? What are you doing? Oh, oy vey. Yeah, Tovia Singer. Oh, he's the worst. Kind of sus that Derek and Gnostic went to Israel together. Yeah. What happened there, Gnostic informant? Neil, where are you?
Why'd you go to Israel together? Why'd you go?
I don't think Gnostic informant's a bagel. I mean, it could be. Problem with that thing is, like, if you throw some curls on anybody, it's going to be convincing. If you just throw some side curls and have them swing a little bit.
Oi.
Let's take a look at this moon thing, shall we? Just before we get into the retardation that is Answers in Atheism trying to cover Jay Dyer. I mean, what a joke. What an absolute joke it was.
It looks like Earth is going to be getting a second moon added to its skies. Earth to get a new moon on September 29th, scientists say.
Scientists.
Say hello to 2024 PT5, Earth's newest.
I wish they named this moon Project 2025. That would have been a good troll.
Mini moon, expected to go into orbit of Earth for a couple of months from September 29th, 2024. PT5 is a near Earth.
Now, here's what I don't get already, okay? Forget the spectacular framework of having a new moon. Okay, I'm just going to be ignorant on this. How does a rock come into Earth's orbit, right? Be drawn, right? We had a big conversation about mass attracts mass. Be drawn into orbit, but then develop enough speed again to leave orbit. I don't understand that. Based on everything I'm told. The moon shit is hilarious, I know. The New Agers are going to go wild. I mean, the kind of butt tanning that's going to happen. I mean, the kind of tanning. The kind of exposure to this new little moon, if this is a thing. It's just going to be hilarious.
Earth asteroid that's about to be captured by our planet for a short time.
It just doesn't make sense. Captured by our planet and then released? How does that? I thought it requires an increase of speed to exit the grasp of Earth.
for being released back into the solar system to
Is
orbit
this what
the
this
sun.
is? Oh yeah, this is okay. Yeah, shout out Woodward TV, Slayed by Truth. Made sure the person I'm watching here, yeah, it's called The Second Moon. Woodward.
Here's
Just not to
why,
be confused with Onward.
when, and everything else you need to know about Earth's mini moon. Mini moon. What is 2024 PT5? 2024 PT5 is a near-Earth asteroid, and it's 11 meters in diameter, about the same as 2 giraffes.
2 giraffes. We're calling that a moon now. We're calling 2 giraffes a moon. Oh man, these people are such losers. Not the guy reporting, the people who were even making this a thing.
It's known as an Aruna
Here's what it's mostly like. I bet it's a created thing. I bet you it's a created thing. And they want to see if, like, can they sneak in a created man-made object above us, around us, however you want to say it, and then sell it as some other natural thing. Now, this is my tinfoil hat thing. I need to tighten it. Tighten my tinfoil hat here. If you wanted to, like, prep people for sort of like faking them out for an asteroid or this or that alien invasion, you would want to make something man-made and then see if you can do a test run to see if people will believe it's not man-made. Okay? I still need to get truther music made. See, even with the AI, it doesn't know what truther music means. So maybe someone can help me with that. You musicians out there, if you want to make me a quick, just needs to be a loop, 20-second looping. If someone could make me a little 20-second clip of truther music, I'd much appreciate it. So would they make a man-made thing, try to sell it as a non-man-made thing so that it's like a litmus test to see how stupid people are? Maybe.
Asteroid, and its existence has been revealed by a study published in the journal Research Notes of the American Astronomical Society. This is a short article, so...
What style? That's what's funny. I don't know the style. It's just truther style. It's like, I can't play the clip because it gets flagged. Look up like 1984 Blade Runner. Look up 1984 Blade Runner. It's basically mimicking any music used in all those terrible TikTok, Instagram streams. You know what I should do? A stream on specifically the female truthers now. There's so many, and you know, they don't do much work. You know what they do? They have someone else's content, and then they sit next to it and they go, just stop.
I'll finish it up.
Just stop.
For those of you just listening in. Approaching Earth at close range and at low relative velocity, it will go into orbit on September 29th and depart on November 25th when it returns to orbiting the sun. It will also come very close to Earth on January 9th, 2025.
See, I'm doing it right now.
Report states. Earth regularly captures EOs and pulls them into orbit, making them mini moons.
Look, he's doing truth music right now.
The researchers, which describe the mini moon as a temporarily captured flyby. So I want to let everyone know that this has happened before. It's considered another rare event.
Watch my truther
time
content.
This happened was in 2020. The object is named 2020 CD3, and it orbited the Earth.
Why a
what
giraffe?
They think.
Is this guy a truther of color? EBT, is Woodward TV a truther channel or like a...
Is around.
Is he the guy who does all the voices for that, for the clips? This person, you know the one I'm talking about?
Years. 3 years. An asteroid about the size of a car.
Car now? Or, wait, is it the same as the giraffe? He does have truther music as he ramps up to the speculation. That's a good idea. It's good. It's a truther brother.
And another object in
Truther of Color is a pretty good channel name, though, isn't it?
2006, RH-120, that stayed in orbit for
He's a Christian. Yeah.
a little over a year.
It's night boobery.
Now, an object of this size just flying
Two
past
giraffes
Earth
in a
may
car.
be
Two
taken
giraffes in a
as
car. No, it's a limo.
insignificant. But when objects like
I
this
can tell.
fly into Earth's orbit,
How did I tell? You can tell. There's just a specific. I thought it was Days of Noah, but Days. No, this doesn't. That kind of sounds like him. Days talks a little less colorful, if you know what I mean.
and stick around for a lengthy period of time and then fly back out. I have some questions, and
I have questions.
maybe some of you have
I'm
questions.
just asking questions.
And I think the greatest question here is, since most of us cannot see objects like this without the proper viewing equipment and coordinates to locate it,
Mm-hmm.
we have a limited number of people who we just have to take their word for it. So how do we know
He's onto it.
that this is just an asteroid? And will it actually stay in Earth's orbit for the amount?
That's why I think it's bullshit right off the bat. First, like he said, if you can't see it yourself and you need the authorities to see it, that's a red flag. Second of all, it doesn't match with the physics that they sell us, which something can come into orbit, be locked into so-called mass attracts mass, gravitational pull or whatever. And then how does it get speed to leave? Because that's their story, that you need speed to leave. I don't understand that.
amount of time they say it will. You know, sometimes they tell us things so as not to arouse
He really
suspicion.
He is really ramping up the music. Now, he's only 3 minutes in out of 16. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but he really ramped up the truther music speculation like 3 minutes in. I mean, is there a crescendo? Woodward's TV is cool because he's kind of asked questions and presents info. Doesn't really make, well, that's good. It's helpful. It's probably a good business move too, isn't it? I mean, he's got a big channel, 475,000. I can't even imagine. It.
And I don't think any amateur astronomer would randomly discover such a small object on their own. So why even bother telling us about it at all? Seems suspicious.
I mean, it is suspicious, but I mean, if you're like post-truther, you know, there's like people who are post-op. There's post-op truther, like psyop, post-psyop. And you look at this stuff and you go, oh, they're running the same game over and over again, aren't they? Same game. Something's happening. The scientists told you. They're going to let you know how it goes. They're going to say they won. There's always a way that they win, too. Well, it turns out they were stuck in orbit and it needed a push. And Elon Musk helped to push the giraffe meteor out. Get out of here. Effing comets. How do they work? We've never seen one land. They're supposedly hitting the moon all the time. Never seen it. Never witnessed it. Never videotaped it. You know what I mean? Okay, before we get into the, because I'm avoiding it. Let me just be honest. I'm avoiding it, even though it's funny. It's kind of painful. So we're gonna go to one more thing. I guess this is still a recent conversation between Sam Harris.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
And Jordan Peterson.
In utterly benign way. In virtually all of those cases, I think I can get you there by some other way without the downside, or if not, that's just one of those cases where, yes, the fiction was more useful than any
how do
possible.
you-
Well, fuck you.
Distinguish a religious system from an a priori perceptual structure?
It's a good question. I mean, fancy words, but it's a good question from Peterson. According to the materialist, Sam Harris, all of it's an illusion. All of it. The whole thing. The whole thing is, whether it's a religion, some other god, pagan god, or this god or that god, a non-god, of you, rights, will, all of it. It's all just an illusion from this point of view. And Peterson's at, well, how do you distinguish a fiction from an a priori assumption that's sort of metaphysical and out there, not found anywhere?
Well, if you can convert to it,
Huh? You little shit. You little rat.
or away from it in a single conversation, I would say if it
You're so tiny, I'm looking down at you right now. I hope you feel less than.
doesn't go very deep.
Well, you're only, I would say that for much of that, you're only converting at a very superficial level.
Well, no.
You're converting at the level of conscious.
Sam Harris's argument, which is still fallacious, which is saying the validity of a so-called illusion, even if it was useful, is somehow measured by how quickly you could move off of that thing. That doesn't tell us anything. You could move off of things at quick rates for bad reasons. You could deny God at a quick rate for very bad reasons. You could move toward God, by the way, at a quick rate with bad reasons. Sam Harris is stupid.
Apprehension, and most of your cognition is done through unconscious processing.
Well,
so it's superficial.
It's just a fact about us that most of people's religious attachment is born of having it drummed into them by their parents.
You could say the same about anti-religious perspectives. That says nothing again. It's a genetic fallacy. This guy's a fallacy machine gun. Now, Peterson, if he was kind of, at least constantly aware of these things, he'd be like, that's a fallacy. I'll name the fallacy, you little runt.
Right. But the truth is,
how you come to know something has nothing to do with the validity of it. Okay? This is not a good argument. Your ears are way too big for your head.
No, their parents and their parents' parents and their parents'
yes,
parents'
exactly.
parents.
But if
Peterson should have just said, well, that would be true for anti-God belief too, wouldn't it? So we're even, bucko, you little shit.
we did the same thing with Batman and Spider-Man, it would have the same effect.
He thinks
right?
this.
Like
No, this is good rhetoric, by the way. I'm going to grant Sam, it's good rhetoric, but ultimately, Peterson does have a really good comeback to this. Surprise, surprise, he does. But this rhetorical take is pretty good for the silly atheists.
If you relentlessly told children, right? I mean, I've got two little girls who are dressed up like Batgirl right now. They love Batgirl. There's nothing. I don't have to do anything to make them more enthusiastic about superheroes, apart from just showing them the pictures of superheroes, right? If I told them, in addition to look how fun this is to dress up like Batgirl, in addition, you're going to burn in hell for eternity if you lose your emotional attachment to Batgirl.
By the way, that's disanalogous, because even if you went with a fire and brimstone approach to soteriology and evangelism, which I don't, even if you took that approach, the claim about God and what's necessitated as far as prescribed behavior is not the same as dressing up as Batman. It doesn't tell you a structure. There's no doctrine to Batman. There's nothing foundational to being a human being that's derived from Batman. So the emotional attachment to Batman wouldn't even be equal to the emotional attachment to God anyway, which is another stupid analogy again, but it's good rhetoric for people who can't piece this stuff together in real time.
Even for a minute, right? Well, then it's going to be Batgirl for the rest of their lives. Especially if the entire culture is doing likewise. And again, this is
well, as Brett pointed out already, a bad tool is better than no tool at all. And if Batgirl is the closest approximation to a divine figure that you can conjure up, it beats the hell out of none at all. And if Batgirl didn't partake of certain archetypal structures, no one would give a damn about.
It's a good point. Whenever Jordan Peterson does this with his fingers and does a little mashup of the ingredients he's using in the midair, you know he's onto something. Well, to begin with, your daughters wouldn't be drawn to Batwoman or Batgirl or Bat-they or Bat-them in the first place if it wasn't reflective of some sort of higher archetypical avatar, you know? I would even go far as to say as even Batgirl is a reflection of Batman, and Batman would be a reflection of some sort of higher priesthood. Ultimately, Jesus Christ.
Batgirl.
Okay, I'm
And so
gonna-
Spider-Man and Batman
I'm gonna spare
play
you-
play a role in the culture.
All right.
Because look,
hold
it's
on.
not
Look!
accidental. It's
He needs a ponytail so bad. I just wish he just started with one. He would be complete with a ponytail.
not accidental that superhero stories have a structure. And to say that, well, Batman and Spider-Man are obvious fictions and we could use them as moral exemplars, which we do.
You're taking the wrong end. You're taking the wrong end of this. I'm not.
You little shit. You little midget. I am. No. I'm just getting to it. This is the pre. I'll get to the diary in just a second.
I'm not minimizing the power of stories. Right? I'm saying we can understand their power without recourse to believing things we.
No, that's a contradiction already, dummy. It's already a contradiction. So stupid. He just contradicted himself. He just said, Batgirl, we permit Batgirl. Why do you even permit Batgirl? Why would you let your kids even engage with something that's false if you knew that they were deriving something true from it? That means if you can derive something true from something false, then suddenly you have a problem. I mean, Sam Harris, he just needs to be. It sucks because he's always going to be involved with people, you know, like Peterson or Weinstein's, and they're just not equipped. $5. Thank you for buying a Bob Chat. Here's $5 to haunt Jessica. Oh yeah, Jessica's haunted by Mr. Kirk. Mr. Kirk, where are you? Mr. Kirk, calling Mr. Kirk. Oh yeah. Who's taller, Digital Gnosis or Sam Harris? Digital Gnosis does look very small. That was for you, Jessica. All right, let's get into this. These people. I mean, you guys are in for quite a laugh.
That we're looking at,
You guys are in
because I'm a good person, a good YouTuber. I link what we go over.
You're a good person, bro. Your own view reduces you to a machine.
And not only that, but I linked the video that he got the clip from right below that. And then below that, I linked the video that he references at the end. So you don't have to go out and look for all these things and try to guess where the fuck they are. Because I know
Old balls.
what I'm doing.
You know what you're doing? Okay, old balls.
Scott's typing.
Balls.
I just thought it just before.
Yeah, what's the standard for good? Nothing. Zero. I'm a good person.
What do you do? You know, we try to teach them.
Teach them. Let's teach these
The
people.
shaking fist. Sorry, Dave, for not getting back.
We gotta
Not that,
teach these
that's
people.
mental health stuff.
We seriously
Is
got
that for you?
I'm gonna
Yeah,
be teaching
for you.
these people stuff.
Shaking fist.
Yeah, we got. Yeah, he sent me an email.
There's
and,
Captive Desk, our favorite.
Do something together, but hey,
One of our-
it's no problem, man.
one of our
you
favorite
take care of your
people.
business, and you get a hold of me when you want to. All right.
There he
Not a
is.
problem.
God doesn't reel.
I wonder if I should make this bigger. I don't know. If we
Get
want-
on with
well,
it,
we want to see
boomers.
What you want to watch here is the body language when he's talking. to
Oh, they're going to study Dyer's body language. Wow, that's a good start. Poison the well right off the bat by assuming some sort of authority in studying body language. Really answers in atheism? Really, Mike? You're going to study his body language?
the person, but
Oh, we're going to be using a lot of Becky today. Lots of Becky today.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think
Body language expert.
Zach wants to talk
Fallacy
about
in 10
some,
seconds.
Ken Ham stuff. So
Body
I
language.
told him, I said, I don't need a lot of preparation for that. I know most of it in my.
That's great. Shut up.
As a witness, ask questions.
What a wellness check.
Okay.
Epistemology of perception. Are you at all familiar with like the neo-realist tradition, or the more direct realist tradition along the lines of like William James and such, and how they would consider things like logic and stuff within the structure of reality and
Stuff
more
is
functional
stuff.
and a process and not an immaterial entity? And do you have a response to that?
Yes, I am. So I think the problem with this position is that it doesn't account for the things that we need and expect and actually see logic, words, meaning, concepts, math doing, right? So for example, I don't see how something that's an immaterial invariant thing could be a process. And so if it's not itself a process, or if it's not a social construct, or if it's not itself identical to matter, then what is it? And
Good question, right? Now, do you guys see how this is relevant to the stuff comes from stuff argument? The same way I went after breakfast tacos, him saying stuff comes from stuff, like Jay is pointing out, well, invariant things like behaviors are not identical to the matter themselves. So how do you account for those things, these invariant things, the relations? The things he's saying like math, logic, making relations, using categories, using particulars, making relations between those things, forming sets underneath sets, and so forth. That activity, that isn't something identical to any objects. Now, it's weird because the physicalist, it might be that because they're starting with physicalism, that they're actually unable to perceive through their paradigm what the problem is here. They just don't do it. They just refuse to do it. Or they just can't do it.
once we try to identify or reduce any of these things to matter, or when we don't want to give an account for immaterial invariant objects, or we want to say that the mind is identical to matter, we're actually placing ourselves in impossible positions. And so
an impossible position, Jay is referencing a position that incorporates all that in a position incorporates, which is like your epistemology, your metaphysics, your account for mind, your account for math, your account for logic, your account for reasoning, your account for the regularity of nature, all of it, the whole paradigm. That's what he means by an impossible position. Now, these people think an impossible position means that you, like, they're like, well, I can think of my position, so therefore it's not impossible. They don't even understand what Jay means when he says an impossible position.
You're welcome to.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Let's see them unpack just this part. This is hilarious.
Okay.
This is hilarious.
Okay. So I think the problem with this
Becky,
position is
are you ready?
It doesn't account for the things that we need and expect and actually see: logic, words, meaning, concepts, math, doing right. Okay. So he says something that's pretty telling. So, for example, I don't see how something that's an immaterial, invariant thing could be a process. And so if it's not a process, and if it's not a social construct, and if it's not itself identical to matter, then what is it?
Right. Under a
So here
physicalist view. Under a physicalist view.
He basically asserts that these things that he's listed, these folk psychological ideas that we humans have.
What do you mean an idea? You just appealed to something else that doesn't exist as matter. Doofus. He's not taking a position. He's critiquing the physicalist position. What are these things under the position that called in? You doofus.
Logic, words, meaning, concepts, math, doing right are basically immaterial from the start, right? And for some reason, a lot of atheists, because they're nominalists about universals and abstracts, will go along with that and let them get away with that bullshit, right?
Tell me how to not get away from it, get away with it. Like this guy comes in, Old Balls comes in thinking he has some way. What do you mean get away with? He's basically mirroring the caller's perspective and challenging him and saying, well, what are these things under your view? How is that bullshit? Asking him what are these things under the view is not bullshit. What do you mean get away with? Get away with what? Mirroring back the caller's view? I mean, these numbskulls on this channel, they're so stupid that they don't even know when there's an internal critique happening versus when someone's actually holding their own position. That's why it's so hard to engage with them, because they don't even know where they are in the conversation. They don't even know what they're watching half the time. But it is entertaining for us.
Right. So he's already introduced the immaterial realm right here. What do you think of that?
Well, like I said, we
here
can't
comes
know
breakfast.
100% for anything. So
that's
there could be this supernatural.
That's a self-refuting statement itself, captive dummy. Well, let me pull out another platitude from the interwebs. We can't know anything for certain anyhow, so. Oh. Well, hold on. Let me pull out an atheist platitude from the hat. Oh, this one will work. Well, we can't know nothing for certain anyhow. Jay Dyer's position is circle. We're not even talking about Jay Dyer's position, Muzi. Okay? Does Allah have a foot? Let us know in the comments. Focus, Muzzy. Focus.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
We're not talking about his position. Focus.
Thing going on, but I don't see where it actually is interacting.
We can't know
If
anything.
there's anything detectable outside of the brain, that is the mind.
Yeah, he's challenging physicalist.
Yes, he does what? What are you talking about, Camel Diddler? Huh? What are you saying? Focus. There's a here. Let me help out the inbred guy. There's a caller who's a physicalist. He's calling and he's engaging with Jay's critique of physicalism. In this case, how does a physicalist, how does a nominalist, how do they account for things, categorical things, immaterial things, invariant things, behaviors that aren't identical to matter? Can you focus, Camel Diddler?
Tell him how logic, words, meaning, concepts, math, and doing right arise from all physical things, right? And I'm up to that challenge. Unfortunately,
he's up to the challenge. Listen to old balls right here. Now, at least I'll give Breakfast Tacos credit. He was up for the challenge and tried to produce an argument. Okay, listen to what he says again.
See where it actually is interacting with anything, or that there's anything detectable outside of the brain, that is the mind.
Yeah, he's challenging physicalists to tell
Right.
him how logic, words, meaning, concepts, math, and doing right arise from all physical things, right? And
Yes.
I'm up to that challenge.
So he's up to the challenge, he says. Well, good old balls. Let's get you going on that challenge. You know, because Breakfast Tacos was up for the challenge, and he said everything arises from stuff. I pointed out, well, no, you have one thing. Answers in Atheism, Mike is pointing out right now that Jay's bringing up. There's one thing, a couple of things that you can't justify arises from matter itself, which is the relations between particulars, the behaviors, invariant laws of physics, law of thermodynamics, laws of logic. These you don't see arise from material, because material itself would have to abide by those things. So how could a material or a collection of material produce an emergent property called the laws of logic if the laws of logic needed to be in place to have that material in place? You're already cooked from the start, answers in atheism, you dummy. Becky!
Unfortunately, it's not something that you can easily do any one of these things.
So Mike's answer, old balls here, is he's up for the challenge. The problem is it's impossible.
It's a whole lot of work and a lot of setting up. And they rely on that. And they also rely on the atheists saying, oh,
We rely on your inability to actually do the work and try to make that work. What are you talking about? You think the only validity of what Jay is countering right here relies on your laziness? Fucking idiot.
oh yeah, I think abstracts are immaterial, right? Nothing is immaterial if you're a physicalist. Damn it. Oh, Christ, spooky. Stop it. You almost can't.
Nothing's immaterial if you're a physicalist. Correct. You can't grant yourself immaterial things. Yet, to even come to a physicalist position, you've already granted yourself a number of immaterial things that can't be grounded or justified under physicalism. But you borrow them anyway. And you just call them, well, that's a conceptual world. We just need that. We need that to talk about stuff, you see?
When he says it's impossible to prove that everything is just material.
He could do it if he could do it.
You can't win because nothing's 100%.
Nothing's 100%. Another 100% statement from Captain fucking Dummy. Nothing is 100%. I got another absolute statement that's self-refuting. I'm Captain Dummy. Nothing is nothing. Something is something.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things discovered that we didn't know about before.
There's going to be a lot. Okay, so let me get this straight. Your critique so far is we can't know anything for certain, and we don't know all things at all, but sometime in the future we'll be able to get something more stuff. Can you imagine what life must be like through that lens?
It's like new things are discovered all the time, but
new stuff's discovered all the time. And yet the thing in question is all the immaterial things you need to use first to do something called discovering. Captive Desk. Do you even know what the hell the conversation's about? Sorry, I'm reducing to like 7th grade. I can't help it.
I'm more of when this happened,
the only thing that's
you can talk about, right? When you have this,
the only thing that's 100% is that nothing's 100%, and
picture from the telescope of heaven or where the minds live or whatever it is.
What a wasted voice.
But until then,
absolutely,
it's what ifs, and okay, I'll grant you the what if, but
wow, you're not talking about anything. You're not talking about Jay's position. You're not talking about the caller's position. You guys went off into left field like you're in a basement with a bunch of hookah pipes.
That's all it is right now.
That's all it is right now. Okay, that was great, Captive Desk. Great work. I should have played the violin music.
Transcript. I should show the transcript.
Everything else, though, has been explained with material things.
Everything else except for the things that we're talking about, dummy. Everything else has been explained by the material things. Material things don't explain anything. Explaining itself is not a material thing. Well, everything else has been explained by everything something. Yeah, he gets a vote. Thanks, Rob. StreamYard and its consequences. That's, a new book. We should take off where Ted K left off.
And so you're welcome to make
They're not smart
along these lines. So where's that at?
He sounds like Eeyore.
Okay, so now we're going to hear from
he sounds like the bear from Toy Story, the villain bear. Well,
to make argumentation along those lines if you want to.
Explainium.
Okay, so what if we conceived of well, first of all, I don't believe in immaterial things, so I can try and conceive of everything.
I don't believe in immaterial things. Now, got to give it to Jay for just holding off on that one, because I would have put the stick right in the wheel. Wouldn't have been a conversation. Would have been a shit show. But whatever kind of will Jay had in this moment, I commend him for. I don't believe in anything immaterial. You couldn't make the statement without the opposite being true.
Think materially, because that's more parsimonious.
Good move.
But say if we had a sort of definition of mind along the lines of a set of interrelationships between material things, and then we consider things like
Relationships between material things are not material. Game over. Go on.
like logic, because obviously I wouldn't say logic's immaterial. I'd say it's a material thing, but it's not.
Really? You'd say logic is a material thing. Very fascinating. Interesting. I wonder what logic's made of. Logicanium? Is that on the periodic table of elements? Logicanium? Huh?
Not an entity, right? Because an entity, you know, there's no like entity, like you couldn't cut open a brain or any sort of reasoning being and find an entity of logic, right? I think we both agree on that.
Did you just say camel diddler? I mean, that comment can be misconstrued as racist. Well, no, that's racist because you're now assuming that there's only certain people who are capable of diddling camels. So look who's racist now.
But you know, if you consider things like logic and like experience and all these things that you would label as immaterial, instead of as immaterial entities that exist in some sort of universal category, instead they were just relationships between material entities or like complex sets of interrelationships
Whiteboard.
between
Whiteboard alert.
material things. And then you could kind of conceive of it that way. What would you respond to that?
Yeah.
I know race. Islam's not a race. Yeah, maybe he was being facetious. Hopefully, I can't tell in my chat anymore.
Yeah, he's busy writing on his little whiteboard now.
Oh, good critique, Mike, from Answers in Atheism. So we got our second critique in of this little conversation. And what is it? Look at him. He's writing on his whiteboard now. He's writing something down on his whiteboard. So,
So,
oh, wow, Mike. Great work, buddy. So the second critique is Jay's writing something on a whiteboard.
guy, I kind of like. I like the way he's presenting this. I think it's pretty good. We got midnight in the house.
Hello.
And this,
Hello.
hey, midnight.
It's been a long while.
Yep.
I say, and that's where you asked him a question, and he's writing on the whiteboard, and I don't think he ever got back to that question he asked.
Oh, well, Captain Disc, good call. You got him now.
The really important thing he said here is the relationships between material entities or complex sets of interrelationships between material things.
Forget complex sets, any relations. It doesn't matter if they're complex.
And now Jay's going to come up with his reduction.
So,
Oh, gosh, because reductions are invalid just because they're simple. Is that what it is? Is that what it is, Mike?
my question would be, and as I was listening to you talk, I wrote down 3 things that I would like you to clarify if you would.
Right.
So when you talk about
Whiteboard fallacy.
a set of things, and when you talk about relationships, and when you talk about complex sets,
Look,
when you talk about the things, I assume you mean when you pick out objects in the world. What is the set that classes those set of things?
Okay, well, I guess it would depend on what we're talking about. So
depends on what you mean.
Because
Depends on what you mean by set.
this is what you said.
Experience, as an example.
Well, I mean,
so it
you
would
said
be like-
thing. Hold on. So, are you talking about objects in the world? That's what I assume you mean by things. You said relationships between those things in the world.
Mhm.
Okay, so what is this thing that you're calling a set of those things?
What's that made of?
What is this thing?
They're
that you're
already
calling a set of things?
listen. Even the people, doing the shitty critique right now, they're giggling because Jay already has them in a corner. What is a set under physicalism? What is it? Set. What is it made out of? Setonium?
Okay, so he's trying to get to the universe.
What is it?
Right? That we're calling. We're picking out a set of things in the world, and we're calling it a set of things. So, what is that set of things?
Yeah, what is it?
itself, right? What is the reality of that set of things?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes a set of things is just a set of things.
Wow, Mike. Let's all give a round of applause for Mike. Really doing the work here. Oh, now I have to hit all the buttons. Here we go. Let me see. We got this one.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
We are proud of what we like. We are proud of what we're gonna. We are proud of who we are.
So, Mike's big brain response so far is, guys, sometimes the set is the set.
No f***ing duh.
Great work, Mike. Maybe you should have called in. Sometimes the set is just the set.
Of that set of things. Well, sometimes a set of things is just a set of things.
Sometimes the set of things, Jay, if you're around, I really should have been this guy who called in, apparently. Jay, I mean, how are you going to handle this? The set of things is the set of things. Okay, I mean, where else could he take it? He doesn't need to go any further.
So I don't know where he's going with that. Scott's what happened
Wow.
to Scott? He came back.
Wow.
He went away and then he came back. Okay.
Okay, well, it's a set of relationships. Okay, because I guess what you're trying to say is
Even the caller said it. Jay asked, what's the set of things? Under your physicalist view, he's asking, what's the set? What is this thing you're talking about? He also says the set of things. Yeah, see, I don't even know if people are making fun of emergentism anymore on this channel. I think that's an accomplishment.
What's that?
I mean, I thought I'm on mobile right now. I'll be back in PC in a sec. I thought that I could just put it back in the background and still be in it, but I guess Restream isn't like StreamYards. Also,
Why do they bring an autistic guy on?
So this has nothing to do with the video. With the video, I mean, it does, but I always wonder why is it that people feel the need to have like
Today, Junior,
the blue and red lighting? Or
oh, another great critique. Wow, they're bringing in the top-notch people here. Why whiteboard? If God real, why bad thing happen? Why red light? As a quote Arab, I would call you a racism if you didn't call that guy in the chat a camel diddler. Their feet resemble Allah's one. Their feet resembles Allah's feet. It's an honor to be called one. Thank you, Nadeem. I really appreciate that support. Appreciate that.
just like what is
So he looks
like,
like the
I've seen it around. It's like
Wow, you guys are bringing in the killers now. I mean, you're bringing in what do they call them? The ringers. You're bringing in the ringers now. Why the red light? Why the red light?
I don't know.
He looks like the devil. He's got the blue
He looks like the devil.
background and the red. You know, he looks pretty much like the devil.
Wow, old balls.
Old balls, gross.
I think that's it. Oh, like watching a toddler ask his first questions.
Like watching a toddler. You're calling Jay a toddler? That's it? That's all?
Mr. Logo. Yep. Anyway, okay. So let's.
Okay.
So the set is the hold on. So the set is the relationship.
Sorry?
Is that what you're saying? The set is identical to the relationship?
Well, no, because like you could have.
That was Mr. Logo in their chat. This is like watching a toddler ask his first questions. They couldn't. Oh,
a bunch of individual relationships, and then a set of them is just a collection of relationships.
Okay, so when we talk about a series of objects, right, that we're calling coconut or whatever, you're saying that that is a set of 7 coconuts, right? There's 7 of these things, and that set we're calling coconuts, right?
Kind of. I guess like so for example, if you're looking at numbers and you wanted to find an empirical example of numbers, you could find 7 coconuts and then see the relationship between them of 7 different entities.
Okay, so hold on. So
material
you said the
entities and
set,
find
so the set is identical to the relationship now, in this case, in this example.
I'm not sure I fully understand what you mean, but from
Well,
what I'm hearing,
you
kind of.
said I
This,
thought
this is where he's trying to change the words.
Oh, stop. What a cope these people are. Such losers. This is where he's trying to change it. Hit derp, but derp, but derp.
As he said, there was, like you just repeated, Mike, there was a interrelationship between the things.
Right. You said
He's asking if the set is identical to the relationships, dummies.
And now he's trying to get him to say they are
He's not trying to get them to say anything. He's asking them, stupid.
identical. And then this is what they do. Then now he's
This is
stuck.
what they do? You mean cross-examine your stupid physicalist view that can't make sense of categories? That's all he's doing. He's done it a million times. You think this is a new thing for Jay? This is like bowling with bumpers for Jay. Are you kidding me? He already knows what to write on the whiteboard for you silly people. This is
Is that
absurd.
what I said? Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then they'll-
so now they're coping and saying Jay is gaslighting them, right?
And plan it. No, well, that's what you said. That's what you said. Oh, okay. And then they'll go, well, see, now you're wrong. That's exactly
Yeah. We repeat what you say, and then if it's wrong, we state that it's wrong. Is there another way of doing it, Captive Desk, when someone says something and you respond and go, are you saying this? And then saying, well, that's wrong. Or is there some other magical way we do this? People are fucking brain dead. I would say, I mean, the collective IQ of these people, it's got to be like 80.
exactly what he's doing right here.
For this stuff, it would be really handy to have an online transcript or
You need a transcript to have a conversation now to know what you're saying? Well, really, I really need to have a handy transcript of the things I say because I'm not sure what I say. And then when someone asks me, is that what I said? I'm like, I don't know. I got to check the transcript. A
real-time transcript.
It's an
You can
eternal
go
hell.
back and see, okay, did I say that?
Did
Or
I
did
say
put
it?
those words in my mouth?
Did I
That's
actually? Why is it Jay or anyone else's responsibility to know what, like, you know what you say? If we repeat what you say, how is that on us? Well, like, he's just repeating what I'm saying, and he's like, did I say that? What do you need? You need a freaking transcript running live so you remember what you said like 2 seconds ago? Is that how? What?
I was doing. I was backing.
What's up, Chad Jackson?
I was like, that's not what he said.
Shout out Chad Jackson. Give Chad some love.
He did it at least a couple of times because I made notes of it.
Oh, he made notes of it. I said it. You said it. You said I said it. What I said is what you said.
This just a minute ago, and I backed up and like, no, that's not what he said.
Wow.
It's confusing the set of coconuts with the relationship. And didn't he talk about a set of relationships?
Jay's not confusing anything. He's asking the caller, under his view, is the set identical to the relationship? He's not. Jay's position is nowhere in the room. What is it about atheists who just habitually, now, obviously there are theists, there are Muslims that don't understand an internal cross-examination. They just don't, I don't know what it is. They think like, because Jay's asking from a specific lens, that he's holding the view. I mean, how stupid do you have to be? How are you going to do a critique of someone's cross-examination like this on YouTube and not start with, this is an internal cross-examination from Mr. Dyer to the caller? What I don't, I just, it's beyond me. It's a very simple distinction. $4.99 from Jortocalypse Rising, which it is. Thank you so much. They are not sure what they say, even worse, what they mean. They don't know what they mean. They don't know where they stand. All they know is God no real. That's all I can get from these people.
If God real, why bad thing happened?
They will say anything, they'll bite any bullet, so long as it follows that they're not even close to acknowledging a divine mind. That's what it seems to me. Now, that's not a good argument. I'm not making an argument. I'm doing a Yelp review. Okay. That's what it seems like to me.
Relationships? Is that what he's saying?
He's not saying it, dummy. He's not saying it.
The set is identical to the relationship? No.
No, he's asking, dude.
A relationship is between two different items, right? Or between two different sets.
Yeah, that's what he's asking. You have two different particulars, right? Because the physicalist reduces to nominalists, and they have to look at particulars. Jay's asking, under his view, what is the thing that you're pointing to? Where is this? Where is this thing called the set? Because if everything is just a particular, there really is no thing that's also that or in a category of that, because it's its own thing. It's all unique. It's not related to that other thing in any way. Making a category is some sort of illusory trick that you're using for pragmatic reasons to make sense of the world. But from your view, you can't justify the set. You can't justify how things are unified. You can't justify that there's a relationship between particulars and universals. That's what he's asking. What are these things under your view? What are they? They have to be reduced to something.
So no, the set is not.
People are so stupid, man. They're so dumb. Gosh, it makes me support drone strikes. What's up, Jay? Easy way to end all these issues is to do what I've done with the Muslims. Ask them to restate your argument. The Muslims, they won't be able to. They don't. It's like they don't even remember what they say, or maybe they know that they're trapped. Because no matter what your position is, when you're cross-examined, I have this experience where you're kind of resisting because you feel like you're being led down a trap, and then your confidence is, grabbed a little bit, and you're like, wait a second, is this a trap? So you don't want to answer things, like you feel this resistance. But if you're certain of where the trap, like what you're going to say, if you're certain where it's going, you should be able to just state your position.
And that wasn't what he said. He said it was in a relationship, and that's the way two or more things are connected. So
what am I bitching about? I want to know what Allah's foot looks like, Amir. Tell me what Allah's foot looks like.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
Or you can go with a shin. A shin is fine. What is a shin anyway? What is a foot? Can you tell me?
Then he turns it around and he's saying, so you said they were identical. No, that's not what he said.
I said you
but
did.
They'll implant it in your head.
Oh, they'll implant it in your head. So your critique now of Jay or they out there. Now it's plural. It's not just Jay. We're planting things in your head. We're planting your view in your head. What are you looking for, reparations or something? Sounds a little victim-y. We're idea graping you? That's now your defense? Well, they're making me say things. They're making me say stuff now, and they're planting stuff in my head. This isn't a waste of time. This is glorious. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you wasting your time here? You just like abuse? Why are you even here?
And you and I both did it with Jim Bob, Mike, where he said, well, you just said this and that a minute ago.
Yeah, and did you?
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, maybe I misspoke. Well, see, you were wrong.
Maybe you misspoke. No, you couldn't tell me the scientific method, dummy. Neither of you could make a distinction between an observation and a hypothesis.
But then when we go back and look,
I can't believe how long the copes are.
They start turning it around on you just so they can say, aha, see, your whole thing is wrong. Your premise is wrong.
They're not even talking about what Jay's talking about. I mean, if this is what they need to do to just stay focused on a particular conversation,
whatever,
they already lost.
You misspoke that one time when you didn't actually do it. They're the ones that implanted the mistaken
Yeah, he's claiming to do an internal critique.
That's what he's doing.
A physicalist worldview.
Yeah.
But he's cramming it into his own ideas.
What are you talking about? He's cramming it into his own ideas. He didn't mention his own ideas, you dipshit. He's asking questions. What are you saying? What idea did he cram? Nothing.
All the time.
What are you talking about?
Basically redefining the words and changing what the person said. And he's coming up with this identical bullshit. And all he's doing is cramming it into his precept worldview.
What the hell are you talking about? Utter gibberish. Cramming it into his precept worldview. He didn't even say his worldview. By the way, an atheist could do the same cross-examination with the same whiteboard with a different light if you wanted, a different red light. These people are either deliberate liars or they're so detached from what reality is that they're not even lying. They fundamentally experience the world this way. Like a complete right. Precept isn't a worldview. They act like they don't have their own presuppositions. Their precept worldview. It's like, what are you talking about?
He's not doing a proper
red lights
of physicalism at all.
Remember these thanks, Rob.
Burn you in real time.
We do burn you.
Have to be able to.
We do burn you in real time because you're not ready for the cross-examination because you never thought of things at this kind of complexity. Maybe it's not even complexity. It might be more simple, in fact.
Like you said,
you never asked yourself a question from a materialist position. What justifies that there's some sort of uniformity at all, let alone the uniformity of nature and has its regularity and invariant laws, but the fact that there's a way of thinking that's intelligible in describing such things. Those are two different things. All Jay is pointing out is not only are those things unrelated particulars, but all of the things that you're pointing to as particulars and drawing categories from are also just completely unrelated. So we're asking you a bigger question here. What are they?
Look back at the transcript and wait a minute.
What's a category? What's a relationship? What's a set? Is it identical to the thing? Is the relationship identical to the object?
Yeah, but they're not going to give you time to do that.
Give you time to wow, what a cope.
Okay.
Unbelievably. These people are such cowards. They don't give you the time. No, you don't take the time, right, to think about what's being asked. You think, oh yeah, you think like we're funneling through you through some turbo cross-examination and purposefully not giving you time.
Case of the coconuts is the relationship between the coconuts.
Idiots, man.
And there's 7 of them.
Right, that would be one set of relationships, sure, yep.
Okay, so 7 is identical to the material components that make up the 7 coconuts?
No.
Identical is not exactly the word I'd use. I would say that's sort of like an instantiation of that relationship.
Oh, so there's a distinction between the set and the individuals, such that the set is instantiated.
Well, in the sense, like,
what Jay's drawing out is that there's this constant back and forth from the person who has the worldview of the caller, where they make things identical and then separate, identical and separate. The set, the relationship is this aggregate of the particulars. He's asking, well, what's the thing you're pointing to that is the set or the relationship? And the only thing they can point to are particulars. That's why, and Jay already knows this. The only thing you can point to are particulars. That's why they hold a nominalist position to begin with, because their own view can't justify the thing that they're calling that collection of reference objects in the world or even events in the world. They can't even They can't even justify the categorization of events in the world, let alone the objects in the world.
Yes, because there's like an individual example of it, and then you could find that example elsewhere. I don't think there's like
what
Right.
is instantiated? Because you said you're
Coconuts.
Coconuts, they say.
Yeah, the example is coconuts, and that's what
Examples.
instantiated means. So
Instantiated means the coconuts now? What are you saying? That the coconuts, that's what instantiation means, is the coconuts. No, that's the thing in question. The thing you're calling a set. That's the thing that's being questioned. You're just grant yourself there's this. I mean, the brain rot is it's that's why I showed this. It's comical. This is even an old video of Jay's. It's just comical.
So
it's a nonsense question. He's just trying to get him rattled or whatever.
It's a nonsense question. He's trying to get him rattled. Wow, this is some high level shit, Captive Desk. Wow, this must be one of the weeks you didn't hit your head on the counter.
And he said at the beginning, hey, I'm not on your level or whatever.
He's trying to get him to identify two things as the same thing, which they really aren't. Like a set of things.
He almost
based on certain relationship.
He should take basic philosophy classes online before debating. Well, especially like if they're gonna do a cross-examination of a cross-examination. I mean, that's even another thing altogether than just the debate. These guys are doing a cross-examination of an internal critique. They can't even make sense of where is Jay holding a view and where is Jay just propping up a view that's internal to the person who's calling in. They don't even know the difference. Now he's trying to say things are the same and different. He's trying to rattle the caller. Oh my goodness.
It's not the relationship.
Stop
it's
whining.
the things you can draw a circle around in an imaginary way.
In an imaginary way. The things you can draw a circle around in an imaginary. So now this sets, from their view, the categories is an imaginary thing. It's not real. There's nothing real about the sets of things. There's nothing real about that these things are unified in some way, in some metaphysical way. There's no ontology to making sense of the world. The world is fundamentally unrelated. All of it. Fundamentally unrelated from their view. And yet here they do that. They just own themselves over and over again. When they make sentences and they talk about things, they admittedly are participating in a complete illusion, a magic trick. And here they are debating whether theism or Christianity is true while holding a view that the very methods they use for making sense of the world is completely fabricated. Right. They can't distinguish anything. So all their critique is, well, why aren't you giving me my illusory framework for examining reality, Jay? Why are you so meanie pants? Anyone who's had a basic Plato or Aristotle class would be able to know the basic issues I'm raising.
That share those properties or relationships, types of behaviors.
Again, so the thing in question is relationships. And he goes, well, you just got to look at the things that share things. And that's how we do it. Derp.
With one another.
Yeah, those relationships are called universals. The moment you form this statement called this, like, oh, these have shared things, you're actually crafting something from your worldview that doesn't really exist.
Other types of properties. So
Derp.
he was trying to confuse
He's not trying to confuse anybody.
I see
snakes,
motivation
bunch of
to trip somebody up,
pig snake,
and so get them to.
The motivation of cross-examining a belief that you know is incoherent is to trip them up. How is that a bad thing? If someone calls in to debate something, their worldview, and they try to defend it, the cross-examiner's job is to find flaws, aka trip them up. And now that's some bad thing? You guys celebrate when an atheist trips up a theist in a bad take or a bad argument. Now it's bad to trip people up. You guys are such failures.
The second guess, like you said, and to say they said things that they didn't say, because you can't roll the tape back and say, oh, I didn't make that mistake. But
you can retract things in real time. I've done it. It's called a retraction. Say, oh, I misspoke. Let me retract that and state it a different way.
you know, so
yeah,
it's a dishonest form of.
This is why. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's not an accident, Jordan, that the scientismos, like these people, ultimately think philosophy is for no reason at all. There's nothing good about it. Meanwhile, of course there is. Can it lead you into terrible places? Yeah, it has. It has for people. But that, I think you're right about that. You don't want people thinking about a worldview level of a view. You want them thinking about particular claims about things myopically. They're
talking.
Oh, wow.
That's it. And
wow, we got some top notch.
Because you can't
listen
use the thing here, because I see just a motivation to trip somebody up, and so get them to second guess, like you said, and to say they said things that they didn't say.
Jay's so mean.
Because you can't roll the tape back and say, oh, I didn't make that mistake.
Oh no.
So yeah, it's a dishonest form of
what?
Of talking.
Oh, of talking. Gotcha. I didn't know what you were doing there for a second. I wasn't sure what you were doing there.
That's it. And hi, Bree, everybody. Spooky's here. Yeah, he almost caught it. Did you see where he said again? So you're saying they are identical? And he said, "Well, I wouldn't."
It's
say
dishonest to
identical.
state.
Because he didn't.
Yeah, I
say
know.
that.
I missed the opportunity.
He keeps wanting to throw that you said they were identical, and he did not say that.
Yeah, it's horrific.
Okay. So what we have
anything for them to hit play and keep listening.
And so there are 7 instantiations.
It gets worse. It gets
coconut
worse.
Form, right? And we can get into that a little bit later, but anyway. But he's calling 7 the relationship between the coconuts or something. I don't know where the hell he's going with it, but
he's not
trying to go somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where he's trying to go, I guess.
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
I think that's at least the first honesty.
Materialist.
It's like,
so there's not actually anything instantiated. I mean, in your mind, you might perceive an instantiation, but in the world, there's nothing instantiated.
Oh, there's not really 7 coconuts? You idiot.
Yeah.
No, from the physicalist view. Wow.
Instantiated just means an example.
Right.
So that's the example. He brought up coconut.
Mike is so stupid. The answer is an atheist, the guy who slurs a lot, who spits while he talks. Jay just asked a question. Hey, so there's not really anything real about the 7 coconuts, the 7 part, the set, right? There's nothing. And then this guy goes, what? There's no really 7 coconuts? You're saying there's not really 7 coconuts here? Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
So that's the example, right?
Is he drunk? He might be.
Coconuts. And he brought up a pile of coconuts, which means that there is a grouping in the world of coconuts such that.
Again, a grouping is the thing in question, right? The external world itself being a metaphysical thing, not identical to all the material that you're calling material out there. Just like grouping. So now you're in this other view that the things you're naming things in this particular instance, we're talking about a collection or set of things. The set of things, Jay is asking, under the physicalist view, what is that out in the world? What is it?
It could be a pile, right? There's
a pile
locality of 7 coconuts all together.
Wow.
There aren't 8. There aren't 6.
Wow.
There aren't 1.
Wow.
They're all together in
They're
one
together.
pile.
Gotcha.
So that is a thing, and that's what we're talking about.
That is a thing. The thing that I've granted a metaphysical category for that's not identical to the particulars in an arrangement. You just claim a pile now? Becky!
When my mom eats rocks, it's kind of like she goes to La La Land. She doesn't seem to be paying attention to anything going on around her.
Hey, Mike, you dummy. By the way, a reference to 7 coconuts could very well be 7 coconuts that are placed in totally different areas of the world and still be referenced. Did anyone find the 7 coconuts of the coconut scavenger hunt? Now you're like, well, it's a pile and you're in proximity. It's a group. Guess what, dude? The group or pile, a pile is a certain type of arrangement of the things. You can have 7 coconuts not in a pile or in a pile. You can have a 7 coconuts in a line, not in a line. You can have 7 coconuts in New York State or 7 coconuts not in New York State. The foolishness of atheism.
A set of coconuts.
Want 7 coconuts to rule them all.
He's acting
strange.
I don't know if he's going to say he's steel manning it or whatever, but this is where he
knows
better. He knows better.
It gets worse.
He knows better.
It
so
gets
why
worse.
is he even saying it?
Look at his
He
face.
knows better. Jay, you hear this? He knows better. So why is he even saying it? Well, I don't know. Could it be Captive Desk that it's not his view?
No f***ing duh.
Yeah.
Tells you a lot.
It tells you
body language.
Oh, now we're going to get into body language. So the name of this is The Idiocy of Jay Dyer and Coconuts. And you're doing a body. Are you going to start a body language channel? You're going to start reviewing some court cases, right? Some live coverage. Look at Jay's body language. Look at him holding that. Look at him holding. Look at that look Jay's doing. Look at that look. Can you guys see it? Look at the whiteboard. Look at the way he holds the whiteboard. You got to watch out for this guy. Look at him. Just let's look. Let's do this psychological examination with Answers in Atheism here.
In his face kind of tells you a lot. He's not
What's it
hearing
tell us?
anything.
Okay, what's that?
Tells you a lot. Watching his body language in his face kind of tells you a lot. He's not hearing anything.
Oh, you can tell he's not hearing anything because of his face, even though he's asking questions of the other view and trying to give him back what he means when he says things, right? So he's... Oh my gosh.
The physicalist is saying.
Yeah, so that's it.
Right. Okay. Sorry. I'm probably not going to be using, I'm only in my bachelor's degree level of education, so my use of terminology might not be perfect. So I apologize for that. But in terms of I would consider these sort of
disgusting
relationships to be found within the structure of reality.
He's throwing
within the
satanic
structure of
signs
material
behind
reality
the
without a
whiteboard. Yeah.
necessity for immaterial reality, in the sense that you can find empirical examples.
You have an argument against nominalism? Sure. It's an easy argument. Jeff, let's just take a break for a second and interact with Jeff here. Jeff, do you hear me? Jeff, we're going to do a yes/no question really quick. Okay. Jeff, do universals exist? It's a yes or no question. Jeff, do you hear me? Paging Jeff from the chat. Please engage with the host of the show. Jeff in chat. Jeff period in chat. Jeff in chat. Please engage. Not as a realist. Are you a realist? And now you're going to do the philosophy thing where you're like, oh, this other view. How about your view? Okay. Let's take it that you have a nominalist view. I'm asking you. Is that a no? Okay. So, do universals exist? The answer is no. Okay, Jeff? Now, the next question is, Jeff, yeah, there's a philosophy thing in the philosophy discords where people never take their own view and defend it. They say, well, this could hold this, and this could hold that, and I can hold that, and I can hold this, and this, and this. Okay, if you're defending nominalism right now, okay, if you just said universals don't exist, right? Okay. Is the alternative that particulars exist? Yes or no? Do particulars exist? Yes or no? No universals exist, not as the realist understands them. Great. We got that part. Particulars do exist. Great. You just ended your own argument. Because when you say the words particulars, you're referring to a universal. It's the end of your argument. It's over. It's done. It was that quick. Over. LOL? No, LOL isn't a refutation. Particulars themselves as a category is a new category now that you just said exists. It's over. I just told you universals exist, just not as the realists understand. Yeah, you don't understand what just happened, right? Do you? So in what way does a particulars exist then? Because I just asked you, do universals exist? You said no. And I asked you, do particulars exist? And you say yes, right? You just debunked yourself. It's a contradiction. You just contradicted yourself. You just referred to something, a plural, that you're referring to. You said they don't exist as a realist understands. It doesn't matter whatever you're saying. The fact that you just said premise one, universals don't exist the way a realist understands them. And I assume when I ask you, do particulars exist? And you say yes, I'm assuming you mean in the way a realist understands them, right? These people are nonsense. This is probably Cool Guy Jeff, by the way. The nominalist Spurg, who never deals with the consequences of his positions, ever. He's a sneaky pig snake.
You filthy pig snake.
Of these different, like,
Okay, so
logical categories.
What is instantiated?
Bro thinks he...
What is instantiate?
Bro thinks he refuted entire... Well, is it that possible? That's not even a good argument. Is it possible that there is such a cutting defeater? How long does a defeater need to last for it to be a valid defeater of a view? You know how stupid your statement is? You think the speed at which something's debunked or the way the defeater is expressed has anything to do with the validity of the defeater? Cope harder.
Mm-hmm. No, what is instantiated in the 7 coconuts?
Coconuts.
Coconuts, they say. They say. Jay, did you hear him? Jay's question, what's instantiated by the coconuts? He says the coconuts.
Of 7.
Okay, so the set is the relationship.
The set is a relationship. A realist thinks that universals are numerical. For whatever you're going into, describing, right? The school, it doesn't matter. It's a simple question. I asked you if universals exist. You said no, not under the realist view. I asked you if particulars exist. You said yes. I assume you mean under the realist view, right? Or whatever. Under the nominalist view, whatever you want the view you're going to defend right now. The moment you say particulars exist, you're referring to something that's not identical to one of those things. Just like the coconut conversation right now. How perfect it is that we're talking about 7 coconuts. The glorious reference that may have fundamentally changed Stefan Molyneux's worldview for forever. 7 coconuts. Now he's going to go into sophistry and try to drown us in philosophical minutia, as opposed to just dealing with these absolute statements about universals and particulars.
Here's where he got him off. He got him off the mark a little bit, right? So he's just
a concept which refers to relations. That's not a full sentence. You got to use full sentences, kiddo.
confusing the guy, and it just
He's confusing the guy. Could it be that the guy's confused about his view and hasn't really figured out how to defend it? Could that be the case? No, it's Jay's confusing him.
there are 7 coconuts.
Such
instantiated.
losers.
So what's instantiated is the coconuts, or a pile of 7 coconuts is instantiated. If we have a
Particulars
type of
are
7
real?
coconuts,
Great.
it's a-
Great. Particulars are real. Is that a universal? Are particulars now a universal set of things? And they're real, but universals aren't real. So universals aren't real. Premise 2, universals are real. Nice work. Great work.
just oh my goodness.
Sure.
How about you explain the contradiction?
So what's instantiated is identical to the objects there.
It's found within that structure, yeah.
Okay. Where in those molecules do you find 7?
There we go. Okay, isn't that great? Where in those molecules do you find 7?
Yeah, this is the best part. Now, Answers in Atheism, Mike here. Oh, man, this is rough.
So is he talking
Right.
about molecules of coconuts?
Molecules of coconuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right next to 25.
Yeah. Where, where
Yeah.
in those molecules
So you guys are just coping. You're not even dealing with the question.
do you find 7? So if we have instantiated molecules, instantiated in the form of coconuts, how many fucking molecules do you think we have?
Wow. Oh, my gosh. Now, I know you guys might be distracted by Sophist Jeff right now, but I just want you to really look at what happened here. I just want you to really focus on this for a second.
To the objects there.
It's found within that structure, yeah.
Okay. Where in those molecules do you find 7?
There we go. Okay, isn't that great?
There isn't a mystical universe thing out there in the world. Out there in the world, under your own view, is a universal. You just said universals don't exist. You're referring to a metaphysical thing called out there in the world. Under your view, there is no out there in the world. There are only particulars. Again, under 10 seconds.
Where in those molecules do you find 7?
So is he talking
Right.
about molecules of coconuts?
Molecules of coconuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right next to 25.
Yeah.
Listen how stupid these people are.
Where
Yeah.
in those molecules do you find 7? So if we have instantiated molecules,
Yeah, a materialist, when they refer to 7 coconuts, has to bite the bullet and say, well, no, the 7 I'm referring to can't be identical to the collection of the molecules in a coconut. It's a simple bullet to bite.
Instantiated in the form of coconuts, how many fucking molecules do you think we have?
And Mike is so stupid. He's so utterly stupid. And his brain is so fried that Jay's not asking if 7 coconuts are made of 7 molecules, you idiot. Jay didn't ask how many molecules make up 7 coconuts. I just can't imagine how stupid you have to be. I don't understand how stupid people don't. Well, that's kind of the catch, isn't it? That kind of answers it, doesn't it? Doesn't the argument for nominalism require acceptance of universal laws of logic? Yeah. They can't even make statements object to morality like Jeff is demonstrating. The moment they make a statement, they're already referring to a bunch of things they don't think exist. And they couldn't make sense of those things, right? But then they refer to things like out there in the world, right? He said in his statement, there's something out there in the world. What does that mean? What do you mean out there in the world? Thank you, Rachel. Gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. That's the joy of engaging with a nominalist, is that you just wait for them to say things and you go, oh, that's interesting. You just use this thing again that you deny has any real existence, any ontology, anything worth acknowledging.
And do you think we're going to find?
Thank you,
7
Luca. Appreciate that.
molecules? But
Luca
no, he's
Belvisio.
like, okay, we're going to find the number 7 mysteriously floating around in the molecular makeup of the coconuts.
Yeah, if you're a materialist, that would be the entailment, silly. That's why Jay's doing this cross-examination, because if it was true, when you refer to 7 coconuts or any other category, a way of categorizing a collection of things, particulars, they would otherwise be unrelated without the universals binding them together. So what are those things that you're using? Well, they're not material. If they were material, just like I asked with the information, I mean, it's the same kind of argument Jay's making. When I ask a materialist, is the information you're referring to identical to the object? Is Apple, the information Apple, found in the object itself? The materialist doesn't even know where to go with this. They're so embrangled. Spatial relations are out there in the world on physicalism, right? No, that's metaphysics. What do you mean spatial relations? What's a relation as a physical thing? Duh. You big duh head. I mean, the idiocy. I mean, the kind of bullying that you should have undergone in high school that never happened for some weird reason. What a disservice. What an absolute disservice to you.
I mean, that is a piece of shit move right there.
Hear that, Jay?
Let's see what he says.
Piece of shit move asking you. You see that? Asking you. Jay, you got your card. FB says for $4.99, what if they had a comedy skit where they put Answers in Atheism face on Sammy or bench since they possible to do so? Be nice to Jeff. Well, this is nice. This is nice. Spatial relations are decidedly, what do you mean decidedly physical? What do you mean? What is a spatial relation made of that it's physical, buddy? Jeff, let us know. Let us know what a spatial relation is made of if it's physical. Please, Jeff. Calling Jeff. Jeff to the principal's office. Jeff to the principal's office. Please explain and justify the assertion that spatial relations are physical. And if they are, what are the natural properties and the components such that spatial relations are concrete? And what are they made of, sir? Thank you, sir, very much, Jeff.
So it's not the thing is, it's not an entity, right? You're not finding like an entity example.
Okay, so instantiated, you said instantiated.
What's funny is something's decidedly physical, right? Decidedly, which means it's a social construct. Decidedly. The laws of thought are decidedly physical, right? Categories are decidedly physical, but you can decide them not to be? You big nonsense machine? You big gibberator? You should be proud of yourself.
We are proud of what we like. We are proud of what we're good at. We are proud of who we are.
It's made out of spatial relation molecules. Yeah. Just add more things to the it'd be funny to make a physicalist periodic table of elements. Wouldn't that be funny? Like you swap all the periodic the elements from the periodic table and you put in like logic and you call them fun things like
That's a metaphysical term. You said it's in the objects themselves.
Who decided, Larry?
Relationship
Who decided?
between the objects.
Okay. But
Not in like it's not an entity, it's a relationship.
okay. So
I'm saying spatial relations aren't physical. No. Don't go to what I said. I'm asking, you said they're physical. I ask you a simple question, sophist. You little worm. You said they're physical. I ask you a simple question. What are they made of? You say, you're saying. Yeah, of course I'm saying that. I don't hold the physicalist view. You do. What I say is irrelevant. You little worm. You said they're physical. We all asked. 556. We can't wait for you to tell us what it's made of, being that physical means something. Now, if you say, great, let's make the distinction between material and physical. Great, I'll grant it. So if spatial relations are not material, but they're physical, because that's a distinction. Okay, great. You can go that route. Great. Where did you observe the physicality you called a relation? It's the same question Jay's asking, the set. It's the same thing. It's the same question. Now, it's perfect that we have Jeff here to represent the caller here, but for me, and the caller is interacting with Jay, and it's the same, it's fundamentally the same engagement. He's saying physical is related to, well, don't save him. Physics is not physics. Physics isn't physical. Physics is a reference of the physical, what we call a physical. But physics itself is already in the metaphysics. Physics itself, at least the way we describe things, is appealing to metaphysics. Like there's nothing called physics out in the world as physical objects. Physics is our understanding of operations and relations. That's not identical to all of these things. I told you that spatial relations don't need to be made of something. That's great. I already granted that. Okay. Now tell me how you determined spatial relations themselves. The thing you're calling a relation is physical. Where? Because we can say light isn't material, right? But it's physical. I'll use an analogy here. If we granted that light is physical, but not concrete or material, right? Just from what we know, generalizing, fine. But the thing is, we can engage with light. We can manipulate that thing we call light. We could reproduce it. We can bend it. We can do all sorts of things with it. Now, you're saying a relation. Where is that found? Such it's identical to the category of light being physical but not concrete. Physicalism is a metaphysical view, LOL. Now I don't know what you're saying. Don't use LOL. Speak clearly, okay? The physicalist says that the only things that exist are that conform to physical laws. Well, oh, really? Really? Is that what a physicalist says? I think you're tweaking that a little bit. By the way, laws. Okay, so meaning itself, laws of thought. By the way, laws of thought, you can engage with the laws of logic without comporting them to the physical world, and they still work. So now you're saying whatever comports to the physical world is what's real, and yet the laws of logic themselves don't need some sort of representative objects for you to determine a logical statement or something like that of you. Numbers, right? 2 + 2 would still equal 4, regardless of apples being representative of that. By the way, laws themselves aren't physical, so that's a circular position anyway. The laws themselves aren't physical.
You're saying that the set is identical to the relationship between the objects.
He didn't say that. Again, he did it again, right, Dave?
Yep, he didn't say that.
No, he didn't say it was identical.
He's stuck on that word, and that's that same thing Jim Bob did to me. He sticks on one word and keeps bringing it back to you.
Oh, really?
And I said, look, okay, I'll grant you that.
Cope.
And then he asked me 5 more times after I said, okay, I'll just grant you that. You know, they get stuck on that one thing, and he wants to keep using it as everything you say is wrong because you said this when he didn't even actually say that.
Oh gosh, cope harder, dude. Stop crying.
I did a little bit of analysis on this. Only one.
I read. I say, and I was watching the transcript and I was backing up and everything.
Oh, but
no, he didn't say that. That's what my note says. You can look at the transcript and he didn't say that.
So he's, I'm trying to figure out what the hell I was talking about here. The justification. Let's see.
Bludgeoned with coconuts, right?
Oh, midnight's back. Existence of immaterial entities. They assert that immaterial entities such as numbers exist in the addition to physical objects. This implies a rejection of strict materialism, which holds that only physical things exist.
Where are you reading from?
Huh? I got a bunch of notes in the middle of this.
Oh, okay.
Only physical. Yeah, the view primarily from physicalism is that only physical things exist. Now they've tried to expand it to, no, everything that exists is dependent on the physical thing, right? Dependent on it. They go back and forth between everything is reduced to physical things to things depend on physical things.
Yeah.
And my note is indirect realism suggests that perceptions are clouded by biases.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
very beginning.
Great. Irrelevant.
Mind.
What the difference is.
Oh, anyway. But
and he's going to come up on primary and secondary properties, and I'd like you to explain that too, because it's kind of hard to understand what the difference is.
Oh, let's see.
Physicalism in slogan form, the thesis that everything is physical. The thesis is usually intended on a metaphysical thesis. Yeah, well, what's metaphysics, right? It's simple. What is metaphysics under physicalism? Simple question. What is metaphysics under physicalism? Physicalism is a metaphysical view. Yeah, I know. Okay, what are metaphysics under physicalism?
Oh, I've got a bunch of comments in here. I inserted a bunch of comments from the video.
Not quite.
Okay, but that's what you said, and then you said it was instantiated. So I'm asking you, what's instantiated when what's in front of us is molecules?
Right. So the difference is like, and maybe I'm not wording it.
So you think
metaphysics are simply the theory of physics under physicalism? I don't think so, because there are things that you're appealing to in metaphysics that are preconditions to study the theory of physics that aren't found in the theory of physics, like meaning, language, logic. These are not found in the theory of physics. So I don't think Tim Flo, unless you're being like sort of facetious here, that it wouldn't just be reduced to the simple theory of physics under physicalism. Metaphysics would include a whole other slew of things that aren't even grounded in physics, the study of the theory of physics itself, because you need all of these other things to study physics. You need all of these things to do science. You can't have empiricism even without a bunch of things that are not found in the view.
Look, let me ask it this way. The number 7 is literally identical to 7 coconuts.
No, not quite. But it's
Okay,
not
so-
identical to the coconuts. It's the relationship between the coconuts. It's
Okay,
not the
so
entity of the
I
coconuts.
just asked you if the set was identical to the relationship, and you said yes.
Okay, so
Yeah, I know. The study of the nature of being, right? Study of the nature of being, everything, right? So being, ontology, requires mind, requires meaning, requires language, requires words, requires universals, requires math, all of these things, right? So from a physicalist view, how are you going to study metaphysics? From a physicalist view, how are you going to study it? You actually, the funny part about physicalism is that you actually need to presuppose non-physicalism. It's so stupid. Yeah, it's so basically retarded. It is basic. It's retarded. You can't even do metaphysics without doing something outside of physicalism. It's so dumb.
So he's got somebody who, admits, that he's doing bachelor's work in this, and he's
the study of physics itself, the study of nature of being. You can't do that study without assuming the mind first. The mind isn't found in the physicalist view anywhere. It's found nowhere. So just saying, well, no, physicalism can account for metaphysics because it's the study of the nature of things that exist. That tells us nothing. If physicalism tells us that the only things that exist are physical, then all the tools you're using, time, how do you study the nature of being if you don't assume time in this created order? Where's time? Where's that? Where is that located? Through conceptual analysis. That's my point, dude. Concepts aren't physical. Where's a concept, bro? Tell me. Let me know where you find one. It's just like, it's like the whole unit at the emergency unit, the head injuries got out, and the first thing, like, the nurses were like, have you thought about going online? Feel like your sister's here to pick you up. We're just gonna open up your phone. We think you would like Jim Bob's chat. Good luck.
Not entirely. Maybe he hasn't thought it all the way through, right? But what is instantiated is coconuts.
Yeah. And he's right.
Can you hop off the crazy derail and tell me why the concept of nominalism is false? Well, things that are true need to be coherent. That is not to say that anything coherent is true, but if it is true, it's going to be coherent. Nominalism is false because it's incoherent. That's why it's false. I already demonstrated this under 10 seconds in your opening in the chat. If a nominalist rejects universals and they accept particulars, they've accepted a universal called particulars. It's the end. Goodbye. Over. Done. You didn't refute it. You just went into other derailments. You're the one who derailed. The moment you came on was the end of your conversation. And then you went into, like, you try to bring in deeper minutia of the philosophy, of the school of philosophy. Meanwhile, you didn't engage with the thing that was self-refuting from the start, which is, if a nominalist rejects that universals exist, the moment I say, do particulars exist, and you say yes, it's over. It's over. Theism is incoherent, so it's done. That's true. Theism in general, yeah, we agree. But I don't defend theism. So I don't think you didn't do what you think you did there. I agree with you. Nominalism is false. Concepts within language are a list of essences. Yeah, for a lack of a better term, essence, right? There are real things, even mind, right? Tim Flow. Forget the essence of words and universals. Even the mind being a necessary component to physicalism. The moment you ask a physicalist, what is mind? What is a mind? They can only say the brain. And then they'll say, emergent property. Emergent property. Not knowing that the school of emergentism actually debunks that view.
It's the relationship between the example and what you're doing with the example, like communicating to you and everybody
Cool assertion.
else that this is 7 coconuts.
Yeah, how you're grouping it, basically.
So that's what he's saying. That's the interrelationship. You have the example, and now you're doing an explanation. And that's how, primarily.
So let's see how the cope now. Let's see what he says now. You're equivocating. A nominalist affirms an explanation for the thing we call universals. They just deny the realist. Dude, do you accept that particulars exist? Yes or no? You little obfuscating worm. We already know your belief, dude. We already know what we're critiquing here. I'm asking you the same, for the reason that you deny universals exist, do you affirm particulars exist? It's a simple freaking question. You only defend the 3-God version of theism? No, what are you, a Muslim? Get out of here, camel diddler. If you're not going to engage with the triune God belief, then just don't talk. Jim, focus. Take your Adderall. Right. No arguments. What do you think a universal is under realism? That's not what's in question, dude. The fact that you're dodging this problem is all we need to know about you, dude. That's all we need to know about you. Now let's get to Answers in Atheism drawing on his own whiteboard. I can't wait.
I can tell you this is 7 coconuts. You know, that's why we need it, right?
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And of course, they probably fell off of
I
coconut.
keep wanting to go, like the Count on Sesame Street.
What does a coconut tree look like? It looks kind of like that, right? That's coconut tree. I don't know. I'm not very good at drawing coconut trees, but
yep,
anyway.
That's good enough.
Okay.
Physicalists can use concepts. They just see it as a false concept that is useful for practical reasons. Right. Well, that's self-refuting, because if they make truth statements and they're using things that they think are false that don't really exist, then all truth would be illusory. They have an epistemic problem. That's ultimately what cuts down their view, is it's incoherent, because all their epistemology relies on things that they don't believe exist. It's embarrassing. They're proud of it. They're proud of it.
We are proud of what we're like. We are proud of what we're good at. We are proud of who we are.
I'm an atheist, but Muhammad Majab, probably. I don't think William Lane Craig is a good, necessarily a good overall apologist, but he can debate some things. Like, he completely destroyed Sam Harris's moral landscape years ago. But yeah, I wouldn't have predicted William Lane Craig would have done well. And the reason is he doesn't do well. I could just predict how he argued. I bet you William Lane Craig argued from some sort of materialist analogy for the Trinity. I bet you he brought up water. I bet you he brought up some tripartite aspects of reality that can't be identical to the Trinity in its nature. Right? Is that what he did? Yeah, he deserves to lose.
We got 7 coconuts, and then over here we might have another coconut, and over here we might have 3 coconuts, right? That fell off another tree.
I'm emotionally attached to Jesus. Yeah, so what? From your review, I was determined to. Why would you argue against it? You failure.
You know, okay. So now what we're doing is we're
It's
looking
too
at
easy. It's like
groupings,
swatting
right,
mosquitoes. It's like I'm sitting on the back deck and just swatting at little mosquitoes.
Physicalism, right? We're looking at groupings of coconuts. Now,
look at Mike
one
go.
thing for
Like,
God's
he's circling groups of coconuts. Groups, right? The thing in question, what is the set? Right? What under physicalism, what is the thing you're referring to called the set? He's circling things.
damn sure is that these coconuts are in proximity of
Dude, you idiot. I already established that a group of coconuts or a set of coconuts don't need to be in proximity, dummy.
the other coconuts. So that's kind of the relationship we're talking about there.
No, we're not. That could be different, dummy. Pile theory. Yeah, pile theory. Well, these nuts exist because they're close together. They're close to my chin. Close together. What if there was a kind of coconut that was kind of rare in its ripeness, and people collected it from different regions, right? And they all went home with a different coconut, but that referenced that kind of coconut, right? There's some special high-end coconut. There were 7 people in the world who had that group of coconuts. Right? Suddenly your proximity garbage. I mean, it's just so embarrassing.
There's this group, and we don't want to get into observers coming along. We want to look into the physicalism of this thing only. So we don't got any fucking observers over here.
How many times are we going to do this again, dude? The nominalist, are you talking about you, denies realist universals, not universals wholesale. You just don't okay, we already understand that. So you deny universals. Do you accept particulars? Are they real? Yes or no? Yes or no? Are particulars real? Universals are nominalism under nominalism are linguistic concepts. What's not a linguistic concept? Fucking Becky. Listen how stupid this statement is. You seriously just need to be just wedgied. Digital wedgie. Universals under nominalism are linguistic concepts. Their ontology is based on particulars. Why wouldn't particulars under nominalism be linguistic concepts? You dork. You absolute dork. How did you not just apply the same reasoning that you did to universals, not to particulars? Why are they special? Yeah, but those things are just linguistic concepts. These other things called particulars are not. You're so dumb. Right, he said particulars are real. Yeah. How? That's a universal, dude. That's the end of the argument again. How this is so insane that you don't even see this. You just stated universals aren't real because they're just linguistic concepts based on what? Particulars. And then you say particulars are real for the 5th time. Great. How is it from your nominalist view that you're defending particulars aren't a linguistic concept? And what are they reliant on? Is there a universal thing called a particular now that we're referencing it? How are you not getting this? From your own view, the universal you're referring to called a particular is not real, but yet universals are based on particulars. A linguistic concept is not the same thing as what it refers out in the world. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. You're not telling me anything new, dude. You're just obfuscating now. I know you're cool guy, Jeff. You're just coping now. You don't engage. This is why people hate you across all the discords. I just asked you a question, dude. If universals are linguistic concepts that are reliant wholly on particulars, and that's why they're not real, I'm going to ask you again. Are particulars linguistic concepts? And if they're self-reliant, are they self-reliant? Are they non-dependent? Are particulars stuff? I mean, you're just unwilling to engage with your own nonsense. You're just going to keep defending and dodging and jiving and shucking.
Made those. They disappear, right? And we do have these groupings in the physical world in space-time.
No, that's not a counter, dude. The source of your confusion is you don't understand. I understand what you're saying. You just said, again, more obfuscation from you, right? Here we go again. Let's do it again from the start. Jeff, cool guy Jeff, you just said universals don't exist, right? That they're just linguistic concepts reliant on particulars. Well, the entailment of that is particulars aren't just linguistic concepts. And that also entails that particulars now aren't reliant on anything. It also entails that there's something called a particular such that you can state particulars, plural, exists. It's a performative contradiction. It's done. Particulars exist. Yeah, that's a universal. Concepts, universal. Words, universal. So universals don't exist. Particulars exist. We have universals, and universals. I mean, it's over. You're dumb. You're just retarded. Bredemix Maximus, member for 1 month. Particulars equals particles with an individual identity over time. Atheist cope sounds universal to me. That's right. Anytime you ask what a particular is, they're going to actually say something universal. What is this mystical? Yeah, what is this mystical category of particulars? Vicky asked. Yeah, good question. We already granted under your view that universals don't exist. That means particulars don't exist. The moment you say particulars, are you understanding this? The moment you say particulars exist, you're now referring to a universal thing. Okay. Now, co-parter, you failed miserably today. Go back to the drawing board. Get your own whiteboard. This is embarrassing. Yeah, it's a contradiction. Yeah, you're participating while you're denying something. You're actually appealing to the thing and using in language. You're acting out. Maybe it's not a performative. It's a contradiction. Fair enough. Fine. Thanks, Iron, for the criticism.
There's 1 here and 3 here. And
I don't
7
understand
there,
my
and
own
11
view.
overall.
I'm not talking about my own view, dummy. Co-parter, you're done. You're toast. There's no reason to pay attention to you anymore. We've already demonstrated that you can't engage with the critique. We've already stated it, the critique over and over again, and you're not engaging with it. You said particulars exist. The reason you did not deny a universal is because you say it's a linguistic concept. I asked you. You said this. We deny universals because it's a linguistic concept and it's reliant on particulars. I asked you a simple question. Is particulars itself, first of all, is that a universal? Are we referring to the same thing here? Are particulars a linguistic concept? Yes or no? The reason you can't answer this yes or no question is because it's the end of your argument. Are particulars a linguistic concept? That's the first part of the question. The next part of the question is, are they reliant on anything? Because that seems to be the reason you're denying universals, is because 1, they're linguistic concept. 2, they're reliant. Well, guess what? That debunks your affirming of particulars too.
You know,
so stupid.
There's another grouping that exists in physicality.
What rights does God give us? None. No rights. You have no rights.
Coconuts. In other words, all the coconuts on our island. So, say we're on an island, we only have 3 piles of coconuts, and we know that we have 11 coconuts overall on the entire island, but that is a real physical thing. Now, if we take one of these coconuts and eat it, what's going to happen? We got 10 coconuts.
Oh, wow. Wow. Great work. This is just absurd. They get to a part, and I'll wrap it up with these dopes because, you know, there is one part they say Mike says the most ridiculous statement. It's surprising, right? That he could actually say something more ridiculous than what he has. Nope.
And there doesn't have to be a human to eat it. It could have been eaten by single-celled organisms, right?
Slow down and
Nobody's
focus.
observing this shit.
Dude, you're the one not answering simple questions. I slowed it down. You little bitch. Universals don't exist because they're linguistic concepts that are wholly reliant on particulars. Great. What are particulars? Are particulars linguistic concepts? Answer the question, or you get blocked. You have I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Are particulars linguistic concepts? Yes or no? You get 10 seconds now. Or you can call in if you want. If the chat wants that, I'm telling you that based on how he engages in the chat, you're in for a horrible exchange. Horrible. I didn't see your answer. No, I can't read the whole chat, dude. So particulars are not linguistic concepts. Wow. Universals do exist now. Not in the way I get. You're a troll, dude. You're a nonsense machine. You said they don't exist, and now they do exist. Get out of here, dude. You're a waste of our time.
It still exists. And that's what he's now I don't know. We'll see what Jay is trying to do. See if we.
Well, that's was that guy that I found, and when I did the thing last night where he was talking about the
oh, shut up, shut up, dude.
What are you observing? There's just boulders and coconuts, and that's it. And looks like that, sort of. And on my island, I've got one other thing, which is I don't know how to do that exactly. What
Pretty
color to
much
do that in. But on this island, there are holes basically, and there are holes of various sizes.
You didn't answer? Well, maybe you did answer. Your answers are terrible because now you say universals don't exist. They're just linguistic concepts. Do linguistic concepts just exist? And then you said particulars aren't linguistic concepts. I don't know. If a particular isn't a linguistic concept, what is it? If a particular isn't a linguistic concept, the word, it's a word, right? We're using language, right? If you say, this is how stupid this guy's view is. If you point to an apple and say, yeah, particulars exist, the apple's one of those. The moment you say that's an apple, you're assigning, you couldn't even point to a particular unless it was a part of the universal. Now he thinks you only have a universal because of the particulars. This is the problem of one and many things. And it's not solved by just appealing to particulars, because the moment you say that's a particular what question, they've necessitated a universal. So you couldn't even point to a particular and make it make any sense at all without the universal. For the 30th time. No, you're not listening. It's you who are not listening. A universal is explained differently by the... I don't care, dude. I don't care. I want to know your view. You said a universal is wholly reliant on a particular, and yet I've just demonstrated that holds true the opposite way. That you can't point to the thing. You can't even point to what it is. A particular what? You guys really want to listen to this? Good God. So it's up to you, chat. It's up to you. All up to you. Not really, but what the hell? Call into Discord? No, you jump on my channel. You're in my chat, you little bitch. Get the fuck out of here. You're blocked. Banning you forever. You're done. Fucking ban you forever, you little pussy. Come to my Discord. No, you jump. You're in my chat. Fucking failure. Get the fuck out of here. Fucking pussies. I don't think Jesus gave us our rights. I already told you I don't believe in rights, Iron. I'm going to ban you next. They reject Christ, so they naturally reject truth. Right. Pride, maybe. Only someone so proud could be both educated and completely... Well, those go hand in hand at this point, Raziel. Being educated is a curse at this point. Seriously. If that's what... If this... What's on the screen, by the way, or Jeff, if this represents being educated, I should just, we should all pull our kids out of school.
So there are some holes that will hold 7 coconuts, and there are some holes that will hold 3 coconuts. Okay. And that's it. That's the whole metaphysical model. We're not talking about.
If you hold the coconuts, that's the metaphysical model. No, I already, dude, is Answers in Atheism here and just being silent because this is so embarrassing? No, you can have coconuts that are part of a group that are totally separate, not found in a hand, across the world, separated.
About these guys over here, which are brains observing.
Oh, look at the brains.
Coconuts.
Look, he circled the brains.
We're eliminating observers. We're talking about physicalism. So
you're eliminating observers. You're talking about physicalism. Right. Great one.
Anyway, that's sort of a start.
Is it?
But he's going to confusing by bringing.
power right now.
Of 3 boulders, right? Okay. Hole. And this one's only going to have 3.
Oh, this is rich. This is rich. This is rich.
So now these 3 coconuts.
Okay, you guys see the 3
there's
coconuts?
a big wind, right? Big hurricane. We'll also have that
Okay, there's a
as part of
hurricane.
our
Yeah.
model.
Yeah, let's put that in the
And
model.
these 3 coconuts could basically fit into that hole.
Uh-huh.
And nothing else. Everything else will roll off the top.
Right.
7 coconuts could fit in this hole.
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right.
Whatever.
Uh-huh.
Could fit in that hole, right?
Uh-huh.
Or 3 boulders could fit in that hole.
Oh,
where the
good.
3 coconuts fit.
Oh, right.
So here we have an observer, kind of. An observer that can count the physicality of these coconuts. And this hole is going to end
You know what I'm
going
gonna
to do? After the wind blows forever, because eventually they're going to blow into that
You guys know what I'm gonna do? I just took a snapshot of this. I'm gonna make a mug and put it on the website. Mike's drawing here. I'm gonna make a mug of that little drawing there. Put it on the website. I mean, this little drawing right here should be pretty much preserved eternally in time. Alter Void, $5. Thank you. Is it just me? Does Captive Desk voice just make you want to sleep? Yeah, he's sleeping. Yeah, I think he's sleepwalking.
And this one's only going to have 3. And so this acts as like an observer. Do you see that?
Who brought up
And
the
we're just
coconut?
talking about physical.
The coconut argument is actually a meme already. It's years in the making. Years in the making. It's a meme.
Holes and boulders and coconuts. There's no brains.
There's
to
no.
look at this shit. So
There's no brains to determine if there's 3 coconuts in the hole versus 7 versus a boulder versus a coconut. Wow, this is top tier.
You have, in effect, a way to count coconuts with how many fit into a hole. So here we have a relationship.
Copyright?
Between
No, it'll be worth it.
Okay,
Imagine,
those coconuts won't
imagine he
fit
takes
there.
me to court
These
for
will,
this drawing.
These boulders will fit here. These are relationships.
I'll give him half of it. I'll offer Mike from Answers in Atheism half of the
in the world that are possible
profits.
So that's how numbers are real, on my view. Anyway.
Wow, great work there.
And he's basically right again, because it's the relationship.
It's a
of the holes and the coconuts and the boulders and everything
go to
else.
sleep.
Yeah, you can call that.
You guys go to sleep now.
The example of
you're not getting out of the cave. You're not getting out of the pit until I say so.
You're trying to do. Well, will 7 coconuts fit in this hole, or will they fit in this hole?
These people are so mind-numbingly dumb that they don't even know what Jay's critique is. I mean, they don't even understand what's being argued at this point.
Yeah.
And then the relationship would be figuring it out, right?
Yeah. So you doing bad science tonight, Maya?
9 o'clock Eastern.
I know, guy.
I think
because you said.
Can you explain how I refuted myself? Sorry.
Is the 7 coconuts on the left identical
Dense.
to the 7
So
bananas
dense.
on the right?
No.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Is the 7 coconuts on the left identical to the 7 bananas on the right?
No.
Okay. So how are they both, quote, 7?
Because 7 is a cardinal number,
and
they're
seven.
used for counting.
Wow. Why did I say theism is stupid? Because general theism is silly. It's a silly thing to defend. Because it's vague. It's vague. So that's why I think it's stupid. It's a not thought out position. If you just say I'm a general theist, it's not a good position. So this guy just says, JS, this is how dense this group is.
The 7 coconuts on the left identical to the 7 bananas on the right?
A cardinal number.
No.
Okay. So
No
how are
words.
they both,
No
quote,
words.
7?
Because 7 is a cardinal number, and they're
segment.
used for counting. tough.
Yeah, that's why I said earlier. Basically, we use this stuff to communicate with each other. So
Yeah, it's like there's a
I
separate
can
system.
say, yeah, bring 7 coconuts to the party, you know, and then you know to bring 7 coconuts to the party.
Yeah, there's a separate system in our minds for counting,
Okay.
and using that separate system, we've assigned a value to that set of coconuts of 7 under the count property, and I don't know why that's a problem.
But the universe doesn't have a 7, right?
Right. That's something that we've discovered.
Listen
Yeah,
to
it
this.
fucking does.
This is beautiful. Listen, now they're fighting.
Okay, let's get rid of the brains, right?
Let's
okay.
listen to this.
Are there or are there not 7 coconuts in this pile that exist
Yes.
without anybody being there? And
You
4
got rid of your brain, so it's all a moot point.
It's all
You can't assess.
See, now Mike understands, maybe from hanging out here, God bless him, is that there is some unifying truth. There is some conceptual analysis that exists that precedes our mind's ability to discern it. So now these guys are now caught between discerning these kind of truths that aren't identical to matter or creating it, right? So the fact that something's discovered that's conceptual like this, number-based, law of identity holds true, shares traits such that they can be part of categories. The fact that these are before a mind, and this is something that you discern, means, and the thing you're discerning is not identical to the objects. That's the whole point. This brings up, well, what is the thing you're actually saying exists ontologically if it's not identical to the matter? And that it's discernible, but not created by men, not invented. It's discerned. Same thing with logic, math, geometry, and all the rest. Octaves. These are discerned, yet they're conceptual. Vesper 499. Why must physicalists believe in universals as independent, non-physical entities existing beyond space and time rather than holding nominalism? Vesper, because nominalism would then just hold that particulars are real in a way that universals aren't. But to say particulars are real necessitates universals. Not only in several ways. One way is the most obvious. To say that universals exist is to say to say particulars exist. You're now saying particulars. Well, that's a plural. You couldn't actually point to plural particulars. That would be universal. The other problem, Vesper, I don't know if you're here for it, but let's say you hold a position that only particular things, items in the world exist. You couldn't point to any particular item and make any sense of it. Like, you're really not pointing to anything. If you said there's a particular apple, well, if someone just found an apple, you wouldn't know they were referencing it as an apple if you didn't have access to all apples, like the allness that is apples. You wouldn't have any reference. So in order to, what they call a referent, a nominalist pointing to a particular or some item or instance in the world can't be like, really, ultimately, like anything else in the world other than itself. But the moment they make a relation, they're assuming something exists, right? That has some other existence, so it could be referenced, And so the question I saw in the chat that was pretty glorious was, are particulars plural like each other? Are they like each other?
That you can't say that unless you have unless there's a brain.
Well, sure.
Unless we're a mind projecting it.
But if these brains all went away, if the universe fucking killed all,
Thank you for the Bob chat. Appreciate that.
Would this affect how many coconuts are here?
If the reality still persists, then I would say yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think we would have any way of knowing it. That's what they're going to say. You can't know 100% for sure.
Brains discover.
He wrote discover
in the world, and brains discover 4 in the world. So we discover 4 here.
You mean concepts? So brains discover preceding concepts. That's one of my favorite arguments for a necessitated mind, is that before brains, under their view, there are these things called concepts and numbers that aren't identical to matter, that are discovered. That means they exist.
Sure. And that's
another, yeah, that was another thing, Jace. Concepts, do they exist? That's why I was asking Jeff, the sophist. He's like, oh, they're referring to concepts.
What's going on?
What's concept?
But we would never discover that unless there were actually that many things. If there wasn't a difference between 3 coconuts and 7 coconuts in a pile, we would never discover how to count.
No, there's a difference even between 7. This is pile theory. We wouldn't know to count if things weren't together in a pile. You know how mind-numbingly dumb that is? Becky.
That's how we
discover
how to count.
Now where does their mind fit in on this drawing?
They're over here and we don't really need them.
We don't need them.
We don't need minds to look at the physicality.
We don't need minds to look at the physicality. Let me just say it. We don't need minds to look at the physicality.
You're a physicalist. You're going to understand that there.
If you're a physicalist, you're going to understand. You don't need a mind, but you're going to understand.
There's something different between a grouping of 7 and a grouping of 3. Okay? There's an actual physical difference between those things. You don't need a mind to figure that out.
You don't need a mind to figure that out. You don't need a... Thanks, Rob.
Grouping of 3. Okay? There's an actual physical difference between those things. You don't need a mind to figure that out. And that's where we...
You don't need a mind to figure that out. That's another t-shirt. Normally, this would be about cargo short supremacy, but really, I just need here to say Sam. Yeah, Sam Schmidt.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
You don't need a mind to figure out stuff.
We keep tripping ourselves up.
We keep tripping
Keep
ourselves
getting into this thing where, oh, you got to have a mind to think about it. No, you don't. It
Yeah, it was give up music. Yep.
fucking exists without a mind. That's what physicalism is.
It exists without a mind. So the concepts you're referring to that you say we discern, like numbers, don't need a mind, and yet a mind is needed to discern them, but they're not identical to nature. Congratulations. That's the end of your entire view. You've just necessitated mind. It is slow. I mean, it's just dude thinks with a slur. He does. His thinking has a slur. The slowest of boys. Gotta love the rift. Even, yeah, I know. It's depressing. You don't need a mind. You don't need a mind to figure out anything.
The universe is independent of the mind, and the universe exists on this little coordinate system that I have here.
Oh, there's a
right?
coordinate
All
system
these
now.
squares.
Look at that
Okay,
coordinate
there's
system.
an actual space-time
Oh, look, he has a Cartesian placement for the universe that he's using.
coordinate system in the universe before any brains ever evolved. And things were in that space-time system, and stars, formed because these could be particles of gas, right, that slam together. And if you look at how particles of gas, I mean, you have to have a lot of particles in order to make a star, in order to get fusion, right?
Wow.
But all that those are numbers. There are numbers of particles.
Those are numbers. The particles are identical to numbers. It's amazing that these people have so much brain rot that the entire argument and conversation Jay just had with the caller was about whether or not the numbers you're assigning to the particles now are identical, that the grouping of the particles and the number you assign to it are identical to the particles. And they've just missed this entire thing. Like somehow they watch the whole thing, and then what they do as a response is to make an assertion of the thing in question.
If you only had 7 particles, I'm guessing you wouldn't end up with a star. But if you
Wow, that's what you got from the conversation with Jay, is that if there were only 7 particles, you wouldn't end up with a star. That's it. That's what you got. Somehow everything Jay just did with the dude, the physicalist on the phone, what you got from that call is that you need more particles than 7 to have a star. You don't deserve to vote.
you have 700 to the 24th or something,
Or
then
stuff.
you get a star.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, totally makes sense now.
trying to get mind out of our minds. Get mind out of our minds.
We're trying to get the minds out of our minds. Right. Yeah. Right.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And so I don't.
Good point. I would have asked him that. Do numbers interact with each other? Like he's saying that there's this thing called the number of particles that precede the mind that make up stars. And you're like, well, are the numbers interacting with each other? Which is the question Jay was asking, the nominalist, the physicalist who called in.
I would agree with everything you were saying, that these things would still exist, but they have to add a mind, a supernatural.
I'm a theist, rationalist, realist, compatibilist. Do you agree with this? No. Do I agree with it? No. A compatibilist, so you deny free will? Or you think free will exists, can exist with a determinist view? No, I don't. You should abandon that. Now, because I don't recognize your name, you must be a little bit new here, so I'm not going to be too aggressive with you. But if you hang out a little bit, we'll get you off that position. That's insufficient. It's an insufficient position, and hopefully you're here for it to be challenged. Alter Void, $5. Thank you so much for the donation there, Alter Void. Breakfast tacos, please come back. Stuff from previous stuff sounds much better than this. I will grant that breakfast tacos argument, as crazy as it is way is just, you can even engage with it. It's like beyond. This is beyond. This is like, I'm telling you, like the nurse at the emergency room. There was a section of head injuries. The nurse let them out and all gave them iPhones to do a live stream. Challenge me. I believe that free will and determinism can coexist. Just because God knows a decision, well, God knowing your assumption there, I agree with that. Just because God's knowledge, which we can't completely fathom, doesn't change the fact that we have the will and the matter, right? And the atheist usually tries to argue against this, but that's not determinism. So when you're using determinism, Tim, in this sense, you're assigning determinism, which really is a mechanical term. It's a mechanistic term. You wouldn't assign that to God's knowledge, right? So when we talk about determinism in description of our reality, secondary causal reality, determinism can't exist, can't be true. By the way, you couldn't have knowledge with determinism being true. So once Tim Flo, you understand that determinism makes knowledge impossible itself. Certainly free will and determinism, that is to say, all of our actions are determined, that we're not really using our will at all, that it's just a unraveling or a falling of dominoes over time that we have no say in the matter of. You can't have that and have it coexist with knowledge, and you certainly can't have it coexist with morality. So determinism, in the way it's argued, the fact that, that if you hold a position that God knows all, it doesn't follow that I agree with you, that it doesn't follow that we don't have a will. But then if that was the case, I'm not sure, Tim Flo, what you're calling determinist, unless you're like holding some Calvinist view, which would be easy to kind of tear apart.
Or whatever you want to call it, that's separate from the brain.
Right.
And if you add that into your drawing, what does it change? Does it change anything?
If you put a brain in here?
If you put a mind.
A mind.
A separate mind that has to be controlling the universe, which they're probably going to lead back to as God or whatever.
This is the definition of determinism. People who said, if God knows the future, you're unconscious. Yeah. We both reject that. It's silly. Because, again, first, primary cause, secondary cause, once you get into that, you could certainly have, and we do have, a coherent sense of this created order, this created reality with our will. And we have our will regardless of God's knowledge of the future. We have our will in the matter. We still have choice here. And so, but the bigger question is, like, if that's, I don't know why you would even hold a determinist, right, view. Why would you even why would you even use the word? Honestly, I don't even know why you would use the word. So just like, why even defend it?
Yeah.
Like I said, like in the chat, people are saying the only reason you would defend it is you're borrowing some sort of like Calvinist view, but then why would you say you're just a theist? I mean, I would assume if you were a Calvinist, you'd just say so. So that's interesting.
Well, does it change any of that? No, right?
Yeah, they're doing is
adding it doesn't change anything in that, right?
They're taking these observers.
If you say determinism, you mean just the absence of free will, then I disagree with the existence of determinism. Yeah, I think you disagree. So what is it you're actually referring to then, if you're trying to hold a determinist view? What is it that's determined, right? People are determinists because how can you grant free will? Well, people are, no, it's more strict than that, Hoopy Frood. People are determinists under their own view. They would be determined to be, so they wouldn't even know if it was true, Hoopy Frood. How would you even know it was true to be a determinist if you had no say in the matter? This is the problem with the mechanistic view altogether. This is why none of the atheists, Hoopy Frood, if you're one, and the tribe you roll with, can't effectively engage with my arguments against atheism. Episode 1, which visually explains that under a mechanistic view, a determinist view, that knowledge itself is impossible, including the knowledge of a determinist view. It just turns you into a meat puppet. And if you're a meat puppet, you shouldn't be confused why anyone holds any belief. The answer isn't because some philosophical view. The answer would be everybody's beliefs, evaluations, propositions, claims, activity, all of it. The answer is they're determined mechanistically exactly to do what they did. They are literally a walking effective physics, a walking effective physics, a meat puppet. So that's why it's so funny to see all these physicalists, determinists, atheists have these channels where they're getting into the details of a Christian view and this and that, and doing philosophy as if there's something called persuasion, as if there's something called apprehension of knowledge and truth, as if there's an evaluation happening, as if you're moving the meter of truth over in your direction. It's all facade, because under their view, the answer is simple. Every atheist channel who's doing a review on about Christianity or anything else, and their question is, why do people believe what they believe? They only need one video, and it need only be 20 seconds long. It goes like this. Hell, on this video on atheism, blah, 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 we're gonna bring up a big question. Why is it that Christians believe in what they believe in? Well, the answer is they were determined to. What tribe does I roll with? It's very simple. The Italians.
And they're projecting them, and they're making a big God brain, right? The God brain creates all of this, and that's. And
these people are. I mean, it's pretty much over at this point. I can't even watch any more of it. It's not just the God brain creates it, right? As that these are all concepts. These are conceptual. Like, you can't make sense of the world without appealing to things that are not the world itself. And if those things are conceptual and we discover them, and not only we discover them, that assumes that the laws of thought also are in play, which are not identical to matter. If these things are conceptual and they precede our minds from even your evolutionary view, then it necessitates a mind. So the only question is, who's the divine mind? Are they knowable? Have they revealed themselves in any way? Is their existence tied to a larger coherent worldview? Does their existence make sense of our purpose here? These are the bigger questions. The question of whether or not a mind is necessitated is pretty much established over and over again. Over and over again. Now, the only way out of this, we've seen with someone like Breakfast Tacos, is that the only way out of a necessary mind is to say that metaphysics come out of matter. And we know how that goes, don't we? We know how that goes. Mafia confirmed, yeah. Alter Void, $5. Okay, one question. So has determinism proven anything? It can't. Like maybe an example, have they determined that they are wrong? They can't. You can't prove anything. This is the mechanistic curse. The assumption that something's proven assumes that there's some sort of independent activity, like a methodology, that then is not identical to the evaluator and the conductor of the methodology, by the way. That's what's so funny about a determinist being so associated with science. If determinism was true, the mechanism of doing science, the unfolding of the scientific method, would be completely determined. That would mean any of the scientists who are interpreting the data and the results and the experiment would have been determined to interpret them in a very specific way. That is to say, the people who reject the findings of the scientific method, given whatever they're doing, we were determined to reject it. We were determined to. Atheist says, Jim Bob, you continually conflate atheism with materials. Yeah, they are the same. I understand how you think they're not the same, but I can demonstrate, if you just simply called in, how, sure, you could be an atheist and technically hold a non-materialist position or something else. I'm just telling you, when it comes down to cross-examination, I promise you, everything you appeal to will come down to materialism. You just stating that that's not the case doesn't mean that it won't be the case once I'm done with you. What doesn't follow? Camel Diddler. You need to make full sentences, okay? Full sentences here.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
The fact that you're determined doesn't mean it's false or true ontology. What? Ontology assumes epistemology, camel guy. You can't make an ontological statement without appealing to epistemology and vice versa. So a typical Muslim take. Can't believe people are Muslims in this day and age. The fact that it doesn't mean it's false. No, there is no true or false. You couldn't know what's true or false under determinism. You couldn't know. That's an epistemic problem. If there's an epistemic problem, there's an ontological problem. You couldn't know the ontology of anything. You'd be determined to think whatever you thought, and that's it. Matter in motion. Okay? Get out of here.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
Yes, you could. Yeah, that's called an assertion. No, you couldn't. You want to call in? Why can't the answer to bad things just be J's? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, well, you know why. You being determined doesn't mean it's true or false. Like I just said, dude. I just told you. You don't have access to true or false if it's determined. I'm not even saying if something's true or false. You don't have access to true or false if everything's determined. That's an entailment. Ontology doesn't mean epistemology. I didn't say that, Amir. Camel diddler. I said if you make an ontological statement, you're making you can't do that without assuming some epistemology. Okay? You're just saying shit. You're dumb. You're incest. I don't blame you. Right? It's not your fault. Your parents are cousins. Or closer. No, I can't do that. I thought. A car exists even though I don't know how it works. Wow. Holy shit. To say a car exists means you know how something works such that a car can exist, dummy. I hope you're a Christian posing as a really stupid muzzy, honestly. What does your free will mean? Things are either caused or random? No, that would be a materialistic reduction. That would be false. Right? By the way, there's no randomness. You can't point to randomness, inquiring reality. So if you say something's either caused or random, you wouldn't even know the distinction between random or caused if everything's caused. Second of all, even if we grant some level of freedom, the ability to choose from multiple choices, random is not something you have access to, even with free will. You don't have any access to randomness. There's no chaos you can point to. The true dilemma is similar. It ends up being there's either intention or everything's accidental, but that's a trap. And if you're an atheist, I'll give you the trap for free just because you're here with us. It's a trap because if you choose the latter, if you say accidentalism, if I say true dilemma, intentionalism, accidentalism. You could try to do a third option, say that's not a true dilemma. Here's an option. But you won't be able to. But if you choose the latter, you've chosen the first. Do your wife and kids? Yeah, I know, right? I always think about that, Omar. Like what it's like for a Muslim wife to ask a basic question to their feminine counterparts. Ivan is streaming. Yeah, I'll send people over to Mr. Westford in a second here. I differ from you. Well, how? I mean, what exactly are you differing from? Which part, anyway? Atheists don't think. Which part? Tim Flo says, knowing a car can exist doesn't mean you need to know how the car functions. Well, that's true. Like, that was a really stupid thing for that guy to say. Well, we're not surprised by his name. But even so, even if you didn't know how the car functions, to know it's a car means you know something about what a car is. So even if you don't know how the car works internally, you know that a car comes from people and it comes from a factory, and there's something about the car that you know it's a car. I mean, it's so stupid. Tim asks, why do you think to know if humans exist, you need to know if determinism is true? To know anything, if determinism was true, you wouldn't even know determinism was true. Also, why do I dislike Islam? Because it's demonic. What do you mean? You don't like demonic? You like demonic things that are false? Islam is a shit show hodgepodge that borrows pieces from Christianity and desperately takes some broken parts of Gnosticism and tries to merge them together in an emergency in order to invade Persia. It's the worst. It's terrible. It's actually worse. It's more of a target for Christians than atheism should be. Atheists Don't Think says, I think the way you're using the phrase know how it works is different from what is meant by know how it works. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. Doesn't tell me anything. If determinism is true, you're determined to either learn if determinism true. Well, you wouldn't know. So what you call learning would also be mechanistic. So you wouldn't know if it was true. You would just think it's true, and you'd be determined to think it's true. I used to be a defensive Islam. I did a deep dive to show it was peaceful, and it broke my brain. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's actually a good way of looking at it, Christian. Right? If you look into it from the perspective, you're going to prove that it's peaceful. That's a great way of doing it because it's good faith. You're actually coming at it from a very charitable position, and you're leaving with the opposite. It is. Islam's a bigger threat, right? It's terrestrial, right? It attempts to take over. It justifies takeover. Atheism doesn't have any answers, doesn't offer anything. It basically, atheism is a really broken, super broken, fairly primitive religion. That's what's so funny about atheism. Atheism is a primitive religion. It's like the most insulting position to take, self-insulting, because they're criticizing religion, developed religions, and they have a primitive religion. Jim Bob's argument against determinism is false. What do you mean? Do you even know what a counter is? Saying something's false? That's not a counter. You might as well said coffee ice cream's good. That's the value of your brain in my chat right now. That's the value.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
As in, what was meant was, I don't know how to build a car, but I know what the car is. No, I'm saying under determinism, you wouldn't even know that you knew what a car was. You would be determined. That's why it was a false analogy. It was useless, bringing it up from the guy. It's useless. It's disanalogous. It's not even getting to the core of what the problem is under determinism. That you wouldn't even really know a car was not a car. You'd be determined to think it was a car. Do you understand? You'd be determined to think it was a car. Oh, here he goes again. Here comes Jeff back in the chat. You can't get enough over here. There isn't an argument. He just stipulates that you can't have a mind. You don't know what a mind is under a physicalist view. Greg Tard. Notice how you keep using these. Notice how the nominalist keeps using these absolute universals like mind. What's a mind? Is that a particular? Is a mind a particular, Jeff? I like how you snuck back into the chat, you little snake weasel. You missed Jeff? Well, he's here. Greg Tard is Jeff. Mind. It's so funny when these people use the word mind. It's hilarious. That's the claim. Why wouldn't no? You got to use full sentences. Okay. You got to figure out how to use the language. You got to use language, dude. Nominalism, he says nominalism voids the meaning of words. Yeah, you can't make sense of the claim. Like propositions themselves appeal to a bunch of things that don't exist under a nominalist view. A nominalist view isn't even really a nominalist view. You know what I mean? A nominalist view, the moment they affirm something, you couldn't make sense of the world or sentences or anything by just pointing to particulars, because the moment you relate the particulars, which is their only value, is to then claim, oh, there's some universality to these things. Tim says, I disagree with nominalism, but to be fair, they don't say that you can't use universals. I didn't say you can't use them. I'm saying to use them, they can't point to what they're using. But practical also debunks their view anyway. Then you're just saying it's a pragmatic view to believe unjustified things like universals, that they're just conceptual. But here's a bigger problem, Tim Flo, the guy who got kicked out, who's back, Jeff, can't get enough of the abuse. He had a bigger problem. His bigger problem was this. He said universals don't exist. They're merely conceptual linguistics, right? Linguistic concepts that rely on particulars. And then I asked him, Tim Flo, what is this particulars thing you referred to? And I asked, are particulars linguistic concepts? And he said no. He said no. I mean, where do you go with that? Where do you go with someone who says universals are linguistic concepts and they're not really real because they rely wholly on particulars? And then you go, what is a particular? Is it a linguistic concept? And they say no. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Particulars are the new universal, right? The thing that they're denying. Allah's foot, all over the place. Allah's foot everywhere. Allah's foot.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!
He says it's not that it's just useful to him. It's just reduced to something different than what the realist believes. Forget what the realist believes, dude. Notice how you can't engage with your own defense. You have to bring in other people's view. Can you just state your own view, duh, head? Gosh. Well, the realist, forget the realist, dude. Let's talk about your view. You don't know the basics. You're not answering any questions. You're talking about views, other people's views in defense of your own view, just like a Muslim does. Are you Muslim? You don't know the basics? Yeah. No, we know the basics. We know what you're saying, okay? You're saying universals don't exist because they're linguistic concepts that rely wholly on particulars. We ask you, what's a particular? If it's not a linguistic concept, you can't tell us. You can't tell us what a particular is. If it's not a linguistic concept, what is it? Why do I associate demonic with Islam? That could be another stream. I assign anything that actively denies Christ as God as demonic, demonically informed. It's not ignorantly informed. It's demonically informed. It's not like they don't have it. They actually, Islam specifically appeals to the revelation, in biblical revelation, and leaves out other revelation. It uses Christianity to invert and to deny Christianity. That's demonic to me. And all gods, yeah, like Doomerdoxy said, more generally speaking, the gods of nations are demonic. Christ The triune Christian Godhead is not the God of, quote, nation, a single nation. Atheism, not necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't go that route, because atheism, I would say that that there could be a demonic element of someone rejecting, but it's not a great position. Like, it might even be true, but I don't take that approach the same way I take the approach toward Islam, for reasons that people said in the chat before. Is that atheism is a primitive, it's a primitive religion. It's basically like the Stone Age of religion, atheism. So there might be atheists who are just ignorant. There might be atheists who are just in a phase. I had 15 years of atheism. So going back into time in my own life and thinking, wait, was I just fully under demonic? No, I wouldn't say that. Would I say it's a different me? No. It's a me. That was me going through that. But maybe the jump to the demonic is how active it uses Christianity and has knowledge of using it. Atheism doesn't necessarily knowingly actively use Christianity. How do Christians prove demons are real? I don't think you can. That's the term proof is like a mathematical term. I don't think you prove it. I don't think you do that. The same way you don't prove a whole other variety of things that we would say are real, even from a non-Christian view, dark aesthetics. That's like, like how would you prove your meaning is real? How do you prove meaning is real, or anything else you say metaphysics? If you hold a position of a moral, I would say holding a position on demonology to whatever resolution you argue it would be an entailment of good and evil. But I don't even think you would go about it the way you ask, though. How do you prove? Yeah, that's an even better one, Christian. Thank you for that. How would you prove truth matters, right? How do you prove truth matters? How do you prove logic is real? Well, what do you mean real? Depends on what you mean by real. Can't even prove proofs. Yeah, proving that proving is something we should do, or whatever. It gets into meta pretty quickly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I heard Seamus that demons would be sort of like an entailment position that you would investigate from good and evil as a starting assumption. Atheism is innovative. That's what's relatively modern. It is innovative, but that's kind of its weakness. Because it's so relativistic, it really is relativistic and trend-based, that they can't even keep it together with themselves. They can't even establish their own fake primitive church. They splinter. They don't know what to believe. It's all based on relativism and preferences, which change. That's why they infight so much. Relativism. Doomerdoxy says, demonic or fallen angelic beings, noetic in nature, being non-corporeal, us as human beings are the only creatures that have a physical and noetic aspect we can interact with non-corporeal beings. Yeah, I mean, you would use some level of intuition and personal experience to even come to the knowledge, the framework of demonology. And similar to what Doomerdoxy is saying, human beings are also, the fact that we're physical and noetic, that's what gives us our oomph toward truth and morality to begin with. When we say things are, Christian view, the truth or morality is written on our hearts, this applies to truth itself. Even in the atheist has this urge toward the truth. They just call it descriptions of things, scientific descriptions, not a being. We Christians understand that to know the truth is to know a person. But the truth must necessarily be a person, not a description. How do you know and love the truth if it's a description of things. I love water boils. I love water boils. I'm really after water boils. I'm really after descriptions of things. I just hope that we can get to the description of things. I really want to know descriptions of things. That way it can tell me, that way we can finally get to a life where everybody descriptions of things. Inquired reality, Jim Bob was determined to reject his deterministic nature. Well, I mean, that's the absurdity of determinism, which would mean that your statement itself, you couldn't know that to be true. Back to why you should reject it, inquiring reality. Now, if you're a determinist and you think you're inquiring reality, that's funny. Really funny. Are you? It's more like it's doing something. There's no you. Yes, that's correct. Do you also believe that early Christians and modern Unitarian Christians or Jehovah's Witnesses are demonic? I haven't, I wouldn't come to the knowledge, I haven't, that I would say call everybody demonic. No. But I mean, someone with a better grasp of it might, like Doomer Doxy is pretty well versed. Unitarianism I think, ends up being demonic. You know why? I take a different approach to this. A Unitarian view that's, quote, Christian, things like love, which is relational, if it's grounded ontologically in God, well, they worship a self-loving God. I think that's demonic. That's what Islam does. That's why I think another reason Islam's demonic, because ultimately all of your virtues, which are relational, humility, sacrifice for who? Sacrifice toward who? Who? Love to who? Between who? Forgiveness to who? These are relational. If all your virtues, this is how insane it is. If all of your virtues, which are relational in practice, are grounded in a self-loving God who only relates to himself before creation, eternally self-loving, you would be totally fine in a world where everything was self-gratification, self-love. Now, coincidentally, that's what secularism brings. All of Disney, all of feminism, self-love. Oh, so love yourself. Just love yourself. Eat, pray, love yourself. Eat, pray, love yourself. Pray to yourself. I am the God. I'm my own God, bro. This is where all this apatheosis comes from, as opposed to theosis. And the latter being something you lower yourself, the former something you elevate yourself. Islam, Unitarianism, they have to bite the bullet and say, yes, the singular Godhead, the singular person God is a self-loving eternal God. My standard for love is self-loving. So if I'm loving myself, I'm doing God's work. Oh, here's Mike. Oh, wow. Mike. Wow. Just wow. Slow clap for Mike in the chat. I forgot the most ridiculous thing Mike said, though. I honestly forgot. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. Get on to lunch, hang out with my family. You got to ask me a question, and ideally, you ask me a question with a super chat. Now, enslaved by truth, I know that you have a really good day job. You feel so bad for me? Yeah, that's good. That's good. As long as you're thinking about me. All right. Let's go over yonder, send you over to somebody's channel. Go over here, go over there. Guys, can you remind me, what was the most absurd thing? Oh, yeah. What was it? Answers in Atheism, Mike. This is your quote. We don't need a mind to figure out anything. Everybody in the chat. Here, I'll type it first. We don't need a mind to figure out anything. There it is, right there. Right there. Beautiful. Just beautiful. I couldn't ask for a better statement from an atheist, honestly. Couldn't have asked for a better statement. All right. Who we got? We don't need a mind. Hope you're proud of that. I hope you're proud.
We are proud of what we like. We are proud of what we're good at. We are proud of who we are.
Just so rough. Just terrible. All right, I see. I'll just go over to Jay because the guy didn't start his stream yet. So, all right. That's it for me, y'all. Definitely take his vote. Definitely. I hate punching down so much. We don't need a mind to figure things out. It's scary. It's scary how stupid that statement is. Can you get a second to talk about the news? No, honestly, Dark Aesthetics, you should ask Jay, David Patrick Harry, or Posh, or Doomerdoxy. Go to my Discord, go to the Orthodox Discord, ask about the news. I will not do it justice to you. I can only give you a very peripheral view that won't be sufficient, okay? You should too, because if you're going to interact with it, Dark Aesthetics, I think you should interact with, its highest resolution, and you're not going to get that from me, okay? Jim Bob, debate Forrest Valakai and evolution. I would think about that. I mean, I'm definitely more interested in secular ethics versus Christian ethics because it seems to be a bit more applicable today to look at that. The Kirk scare was frightening. Yeah, you're welcome. He's actively ignoring what's being said to him. I've seen that before as well, but whatever. I hate to think what you guys think about in the shower. Gross.
Old balls, gross.
Anywho, that's it for me. Thanks for the fun, and I hope you enjoyed today's stream. If you're listening to this after the fact, because of whatever reason, if you want to support the channel, again, bobchats.com. You could send donations anytime, not during the stream. That's why we created bobchats.com, and we'll still read your comment the following stream. If you don't have a membership, you can get one. And if there's something on the website, whether it's books, t-shirts, this or that, let me know, or just go to the website and search yourself. Again, I might actually make the mug with Answers in Atheism's little doodle with his blessing. So his drawing about reality could it be in everyone's home. Oh, balls. All right. That's it for me. Adios. Have a good rest of your day. All right. Bye-bye.